Good morning. Good morning. Hello, friends. If you are new to our community, it's so nice to meet you. I'm Lisa Williams. I'm going to be your guide for today on this lovely journey of trying to pay less in taxes in this crazy rising tax climate. Friends, as you're coming in, we'd love to hear where you are zooming in from. Why are you here today? I would actually love to know why you said yes to a workshop like this. Most people don't accidentally stumble into a workshop about how to save in taxes. You don't get out of bed and all of a sudden find yourself accidentally on a webinar about that. And by the way, friends, there is favor on your face. So if you are able and you're not naked, I invite you to turn your cameras on. We're going to have some fun today. I know it sounds weird to think that taxes can be fun. Um, Paying taxes is not fun. Raise of hands for those of you that think paying taxes is fun. I certainly don't. However, saving on taxes is very sexy. Would you agree? Very sexy. Let's give an amen to that. So, friends, I want to do a little housekeeping with you. As we're getting started, we're going to be going fast and furious, by the way. I am a recovered corporate executive, I call myself. I love visuals personally, so I promise it's not my intention to PowerPoint you to death, but I will say there is tremendous power in visuals when you are perhaps looking at a new concept. Take screenshots, catch the replay. There's a lot of information that's going to be coming at you, but our goal today is really to help you reimagine your American dream. We have some incredible guest speakers that are going to be sharing their genius with you. There's my friend Jackie. Hello, Jackie, zooming in from the East Coast. But friends, as we're waiting for others friends to join in, I'd love to know what brought you here today. Are you looking to just simply hear what this girl has to say about saving on taxes? Are you like me, perhaps, stuck in the W 2? I call it the tax bracket of doom that I was in for decades. It seemed like every year I was going to my CPA and I would bring him all our information. And he always said, really, there's not much you can do, Lisa, because you are a W 2 employee. Yes, I own a home, but that's really about the only write offs. It's very limited. And what I realized is that I had to reimagine my tax stream, right, as a W 2 employee. Long story short, eventually it led me to retiring at a very blessed young age of 47 from my corporate career and actually hiring myself. So I want to see a raise of hands for those of you that have already hired yourself, by the way. You are currently pursuing your own American dream through entrepreneurship. I want to applaud you for that very, very brave leap. Now, raise of hands for those of you that perhaps haven't yet seen the abundance and wealth come with your business yet. Is that something that some of us are still looking to build? I promise that's another thing we're going to do today is we're going to actually show you some really tactical, practical ways that you can actually add some income to your bottom line in your business. We're going to take you from taxed and tired to time and money freedom. And I want to invite you to consider as you're stepping into this next chapter, is there more that God has planned for you? Friends, whatever you call your higher power, my higher power is this little guy. Many of you have met Pocket Jesus. I don't remember a time in my life that I didn't know Jesus. He has been with me through thick and thin. And I know that most of the things that I've accomplished in my life have come about after some difficult times and perseverance and belief that there is a good plan. Whatever your belief system, but friends, by the way, you are going to get to know about Jesus a little bit as you spend time with me. But I encourage you, all of you, if you have not yet plugged into a higher power in your life, I encourage you. It's kind of like a vacuum cleaner. Imagine you going into your home and your intention is to vacuum your house. But imagine the vacuum is not plugged in. That is what I believe a higher power can do in people's lives. And it certainly has in mine. So you're going to get to know a little bit more about that. Um, I had this concept, this reimagining of the American dream. Actually, God planted this dream in my heart about 4 months ago. I was considering a new workshop series, and I was thinking about what do people really wonder about right now? What's top of mind for them? What are they considering that perhaps they would like to shift in the new year? And I find that most people that I'm talking to right now are seeking more in their lives. They're seeking more time freedom. They're seeking more money freedom. They're seeking more community freedom. COVID did a number on a lot of us, I know, and it really had a lot of us thinking differently. One of the things that I love most about COVID is the time that I got to spend personally with my family, getting really clear about what was important to me. And one of the things that I love most about what happened in the market and the world is that people started thinking differently, right? I remember I spoke with a woman about a month into COVID, and she said, "You know, Lisa, I remember I really haven't loved what I've done for probably about 3 or 4 years." But I thought it was because I was commuting 2 hours, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours a day back and forth from my employment. I live in Southern California. Any other Southern California friends here? Um, California commuting is a thing. It is a real scary live thing. Wherever you live, you might have some commuting problems as well, but in California, it is a very big part of our lives. And what she said to me is, Lisa, I realized that I thought it was my commute. But when my commute changed from a 2 to 3 hour time in my day to actually from my upstairs bedroom to my downstairs kitchen, I realized it was because I really wasn't happy with what I was doing. And I find that a lot of people are that way. Have you really stepped into what you were called to do? I believe this is a really huge part of wealth building, because think about it. If you don't actually really love what you do, what ends up happening? You usually spend, and anyone have this ever happen? Have you ever spent more on the weekends because you're trying to escape what just happened the week before? Have you ever come to, Roxanne's shaking her head. You hear me, sister? Have you ever come to a Monday and you're just dreading what's coming the next day? For those of you that have you ever had a new boss, for example? I was a senior partner at one of the largest recruiting firms in the nation in the vertical of financial services, a very lucrative but also very volatile environment. I had 19 bosses in 23 years. Has anyone had a new boss recently or in past years? And it seems like there's always some different agenda that they have going, that you have to adhere to. So I also want to encourage you to think about, does it make sense to think about how I build wealth differently? We're going to talk a lot about that today. So hang with me, a little bit of housekeeping as we're going through this. I want to just invite you to stay with us. There's going to be a lot of things that you're learning that maybe are new to you. Commit to staying with us today. There's going to be great guest speakers. And if you can't stay the whole time, be sure and catch the replay. Um, if you stay through the end and you actually list your full name and you're present to win, you're going to get a gift card from us, and take advantage of our free gifts as well. Every one of our speakers has generously offered free gifts that will benefit you in your own entrepreneurial journey. So I want to encourage you to stay to the end. I want to also tell you what
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry
know
I'm
to
late.
be
What
true.
shit did I miss?
Friends, I want you to know that you are God's masterpiece. I know this
Excuse
because the
me.
good book says it, but I also know it because
Okay, I'm just gonna
I
mute. I'm sorry.
personally am one of those people that I don't remember a time in my life that I didn't know Jesus. And I had one of those moms that actually instilled in me such a belief that I was God's
Yeah.
masterpiece. I really had the benefit that some people I realize don't have of someone that believed in me, that told me every single day that I was capable of achieving all of my dreams. And friends, if no one has ever told you that before, I'm telling you this. I know this to be true. And I also want to encourage you to consider that if one person in your community, it might be someone that you know in your family, it might be somebody that you know in your church world, it might be somebody that you know in your employment right now. I want you to know that there is somebody that is perhaps further along than you. And if one person can do it, that means you can do it, my friends. And if you don't have anyone in your life like that, this is your invitation to be part of our community. We are here every single month. We offer free workshops every single month on a variety of topics around wealth building. I own a financial services firm. That is my bankroll for my dream role. I am very blessed in that, but my dream role
Okay.
is actually helping people reimagine their American dream. And actually, there's a guy here. Who is that? Josh, we might have to exit him if he misbehaves. If you misbehave in here, friends, you're going to get removed, okay?
Fuck you, Josh.
So let's make sure we know. Yeah,
Hey, let's get
just
some order in the
It's
hall.
not me!
exit. Let's get that Michael guy
Oh, it
out
wasn't
of
me. I'm
here.
sorry. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Oh, yeah, it was you, friend.
It
We're
was
going to
not
just
me.
exit you.
All right, I'll join back. I'll just join
I
back.
want to tell you something that happened actually. I love that this is happening actually.
Is it? Do you
Um,
really? I
I
kind of doubt it.
because there
I
was a
kind of doubt it.
situation
I
during
kind of doubt it.
COVID. For those of you that might be familiar,
With
there
COVID, yeah,
is
I
a
was
wonderful,
born when
wonderful
COVID happened.
woman named Sharon Lecter. Anyone know Sharon Lecter, by the way? She is my personal mentor, by the way. And it was during COVID, and I was actually speaking at an event for her. It was called Assets Are Sexy. And there were this is a small Zoom room. There's only maybe 16 people on the call right now, but picture 500 people. There were over 500 of us. And we had some really sneaky people come in and basically take over our Zoom. And I want to just encourage you to know that that means when you have people that are attacking you, it means that the enemy is not happy with what's going on, right? So I'm excited right now that that just happened. I'm really excited. So friends, I want to encourage you. Let's just take a survey, okay? Imagine you were on a game of Family Feud. Does anyone remember Family Feud by chance, that game? So imagine you were on a game of Family Feud and there was 100 people and you asked them, what is the one thing that keeps you up at night? And I want some audience participation here. If you could think of what was the one thing that keeps people up at night, what do you think that might be? Let's put it in the chat. Is it, oh, in fact, I'm going to have you, if you think it's wealth,
Wouldn't
I
that
would
be
like
so
you to
smart?
put
The
number
smart
one.
thing.
If you think it's health, why don't you put number two? And if you think it's relationships, let's put number three. Okay, so wealth, number one. We got to get some active participation here, friends. Remember, we're going to help you be active in your wealth building. That starts with being active in your workshop. So friends, wealth is number one, health is number two, and relationships is number three. Okay, what do we have here? Let's see. What do we have in the chat? Donis, can you see the chat?
I've hacked your computer. I'm going to
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
gonna search up Pornhub
Okay.
and we're gonna watch
And
on your
Lisa,
computer.
I'm sorry, I can't
Alicia,
see.
why are you bombing? What's going on here?
Okay, so I love that this is happening. This is so fun. Somebody totally took over my computer. Okay, friends, what we're gonna do is, let's see, are they gone? I can't tell who it was. Okay, we're just gonna
And
keep
Lisa,
going. The enemy is,
I show everybody is muted, so I don't know what's going on. So,
yeah, they did take over my computer for a minute.
okay.
And I don't know how that happened, but we're gonna get back into it. So,
Oh, good, Lisa. You're handling
okay.
it great. I've never, yeah, I've heard of that happening to people. Never seen it before, but look,
No.
we're here. We're with you. We affirm that it's all for a higher good, and bless that gentleman who's doing his business.
Yeah,
It's all good.
absolutely. Hey, and guess what? I have some prayer warriors on this call. In fact, I'm gonna ask Lorena if you can unmute, my dear. Can you just do a quick prayer where I get back into my system here? I'm gonna call Sharon, and Sharon's gonna be like, "Oh, Lisa, this means it's happening. God is on the move." I bind you, Satan, from this call.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
I
At
can
least
hear you,
my
hon. Yeah,
excellent. You did call my name, right?
I did.
Okay, just double checking. So I welcome the spirit of support and for God to be present in this call and be walking us through the steps and everything that we're going to bring into this conversation for us to have our hearts open and the space protected for us to find the answers and hear what we need to hear to move forward and continue staying in an open space, yet with full protection, knowing that this is the path for us to follow. Amen.
Thank you, my dear. I immediately felt a sense of calm.
Amen to that
Thank
shit.
you.
Oh God.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I want to invite you to consider for a minute if you've ever met somebody like this, okay, and see how you feel when it comes to your tax day, okay? I'm going to share my screen, and I got to share my sound here really quick. This is one of my favorite funny videos that I first saw from a guy that I follow that talks about taxes, okay?
Oh my gosh. Where's all your money gone, Daddy? Taxes. 9, 10, 11. Let me fix my houses. It's okay. It's part of the game. No, it's not fun. It's not fun to what? It's the worst part of the game. Oh, it's what?
This shit's not funny!
Is that a part of the meeting? Or I'm sorry.
I love that video so much. I remember the first time I saw it with at a workshop that I was at, and
Pussy.
it just makes me laugh so much because every single time I see it, I think, who is deciding to be a victim to taxes? Because it is a very personal decision, right? It's a very personal decision because we live in the greatest country, in my opinion, the greatest country in the world. And yet there are things imposed on us, right? That a lot of people feel like they're not in control over. And I want to make this workshop today. This is our tax edition, by the way. And so you're going to leave this workshop, and if you take action, by the way, on just a fraction of what we're sharing with you, your story when it comes to taxes next year, and quite frankly, wealth building, is going to look entirely different by the time we hit the next year. Okay, so I'm gonna invite you. First of all, I want to introduce you to someone really quickly before we get started. And What I love about sharing this particular information with you is about, if you don't have someone like this in your life, friends, I want to invite you to be this for someone else. This is my sweet mother. Her name is Sue. And I want you to just remember an April in the past. My mom, she left this earth about 6 years ago now, but she was one of those people that made you feel every time that you were with her that you were special. Remember an April in the past for yourself. Who were you with? How did you feel? What goals did you create for yourself? Was there financial goals? Was there physical goals, spiritual goals? I find that April is commonly a financial goal setting time because people have gone through the rigor of getting things together for their taxes. Imagine, friends, I want to just invite you to imagine if you make a point and a purpose to partner with your higher power in business and life, friends. I am telling you, there's no end to what can be accomplished in the next chapter. My mother was one of those people. She was a nurse. She realized when she was 9 years old, she read this book, Nurse Nancy. And from that moment on, she wanted to be a nurse, and she was. She was a gifted nurse for 45 years, actually until the day she died. I think it's one of those professions that really never leaves you if you do it, right? But I want to invite you to think about, what are you actually called to do? What are you actually called to do? Because a lot of people haven't yet really stepped into what they're called for. I know, for example, a lot of people have a desire to give more generously. Do you want to write a book? Do you want to be a speaker? Do you have a desire to be a mentor? Do you want to learn about investing? There's no end to what's possible. And maybe you've had some rough chapters like me. I remember now it's about 22 years ago. This picture on the left is a picture of my little boys. At the time, they were 3 months old and 3 years old. And suddenly my husband left. It wasn't suddenly, let's face it, nothing like that is ever sudden. We both had our part of the equation in the breakup of our marriage. But I will tell you, that was the moment. I didn't know it then, but that was actually the moment that I started my journey into my wealth building career, my equipping of others in wealth building career. I didn't know it then, but that's the first time I actually became a student of money. I really became active and purposeful about my wealth building. Up until then, I had been an employee, a happy employee, a very high earning employee. I was I'm one of those blessed millionaires that happened.
Daddy, I like when you all scrambling and scraping for shit.
Very unusual.
I'm
So
cooked.
the
I didn't
fact
change
that
any
I
time.
actually built wealth as a W-2 employee is somewhat unique in today's world, right? But that was the first time that I really realized, man, my husband's in charge of our finances. I better actually get tactical and practical about what I know. For those of you that maybe you've heard of Dave Ramsey, he is a very well-known speaker in the church world around finances. I stepped into this Financial Peace University class. And that was the first time I really realized that I was a wealth creator. I was capable of taking action and being purposeful and being active. I actually think, have you ever considered, I actually think the word passive income is first of all, one of the most overused words, and actually really doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to building wealth, because I believe we should be very active in our wealth building. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't have income sources that we put less attention on, right? But personally, I believe that God blesses us when we are taking action, when we are purposeful and active in our wealth building. So I want to encourage you, whatever your next chapter is, just know that I believe God can use all things for good because he did it for me. And I know he can do it for you. I want to invite you, as we're talking about taxes, as we're kind of stepping into this conversation, are we in a tax decreasing environment right now or a tax increasing environment? This iceberg image is used for a lot of things. I see it most oftentimes in use when it comes to mindset. But I will say that taxes applies to it as well. Most people think they're saving, this much on taxes, but what they can really be saving is incredible. Now, one of the things that I love most about what I do, I am a licensed life and health professional, by the way, and we help families implement what's called the Kingdom Wealth Formula. Now, Kingdom Wealth Formula is 3 steps. It's protect, earn, and multiply. So my first question to you when it comes to taxes, friends, did you know that life insurance is entirely tax-free? In fact, the very big difference between the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds is the Rockefellers actually invested in life insurance, whereas the Rothschild family did not. And that investment in that future generational wealth through that vehicle of life insurance really changed the trajectory of their family for generations, right? So protection first. What it does, it really does create what's called a volatility shield. Picture this shield over your wealth. Right now, most of us, unless you're retired, you're in an active phase of your wealth building, right? You are putting your hands to work, you're accumulating, and yet there's a gap between now and the future day when your money's going to take over. At some point, we want our body to be a little bit more at rest, right? And at some point, our money to take over and do more of the heavy lifting. So what life insurance really does, friends, is it really gives you a volatility shield for your wealth. Now, life insurance, as many of you know, I'm sure it's not a new concept for you. You can either rent your insurance with term insurance, or you can actually own your insurance with whole life insurance. So I invite you to consider, how many things do we have insurance on right now, right? You have it on your cars, your phones, your televisions. I have one on my refrigerator, right? But how many people have not protected the most precious thing, which we all are? And in fact, if you do have life insurance, do you have living insurance or death insurance? Most people, if they have policies that are older and somewhat, maybe they've had them for a while, most likely all they have is death insurance. That means, thankfully, your family will be provided for once you are no longer here. But what the new living insurance does, it's amazing. It's kind of like, I give the analogy of our cell phones, right? We used to flip this open and make a call, right? That's all we could do. And now I've literally done meetings on my cell phone, which is basically my computer in hand. So if you haven't, either haven't evaluated your life insurance needs recently, if you maybe don't even know where your policy is, friends, I invite you. Donis is going to put a link in the chat throughout this workshop today. And I invite each of you, as you are listening, as you are experiencing these wonderful speakers, I invite you to take action on yourself. If any one of these topics is important to you and you want to grow, you want to learn, I want to invite you to take action and schedule time with our team. We have a series of workshops that we do throughout the month, but this session that I'm inviting to you is actually helping you reimagine your American
No
dream.
self-promotion.
What are your finances looking like today? What's really going on? Does it make sense to build wealth differently? So Donis, if you could please
I have
put that
30
link in the
bucks
chat.
in the backup
And
course.
be sure that you pick time with us. Now, we're gonna really have some fun now, because I'm gonna bring my wonderful friend Jackie to the stage. I tell you what, the first time that I met Jackie, I remember, it was interesting because Jackie and I come from very different worlds. We both actually have
I
one
have
thing
a
in
question.
common,
Where's the
which
link for the
is
chat?
actually many things in common. But what I learned in that very first meeting is that we had a psychology background in common. Jackie was actually a licensed therapist for years, for decades, right? She hired herself. Jackie, how long ago did you actually hire yourself now when you look back?
Well, it was, I was in my own business as a psychotherapist as well. So gosh, I don't know, a long time ago, 40-ish years. I was a psychotherapist for 30 years. I closed that business about 15 years ago and have been a full-time entrepreneur as a coach, speaker, author, trainer.
For many years. And you know what I love? I remember that very first time I met you, because I've known you for a couple of years now, and we've been guests together on different things, but really the purposeful living consciously, that theme of living more consciously. It really resonates me. I remember you shared that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. That resonated with me so much. And you know, your life is, you said something that struck me, and I want to actually start here because I'm still getting my mind around what you said to me that many years ago. You said your life is out picturing like a mirror, as within is without. And I would love to, we're gonna talk about a lot of things. I would actually like to even have you talk about what you think about reimagining the American dream. And I know you are incredibly talented when it comes to the mindset around money and building wealth. But can you answer that question for me, what that means exactly? Oh, you're muted, hon.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on another really fine event. I'm always so pleased with the work that you do. So yeah, what does it mean that your life is always an outpicturing of your inner world? To outpicture something means that there is a condition on the inner plane, your thoughts, emotions, attitudes, your beliefs, your inner plane of consciousness, your outer world, how you see and relate to, and yes, even create your outer world, is an outpicturing, meaning it is that way on the inside, and then you're projecting it out into the outer world so that you see yourself mirrored back to you. So that's what outpicturing means. And as within, so without. Now, I'm not saying you create every single circumstance in your life. I don't believe that. I don't believe Lisa created having this gentleman, interrupting and whatnot. I don't believe that I created driving up on the curb and flattening my tire last week.
Oh no.
I mean, sometimes life just happens. And I like to distinguish the difference between in your life, you're always going to have circumstances, and whether or not you have problems depends on the level of consciousness with which you live. So I want to distinguish between circumstances, which everybody's going to have. If you wake up this morning, I promise you're going to have circumstances show up in your life. Life is filled with circumstances. But your life doesn't have to be filled with problems. Something only becomes a problem if you call it that, if you relate to it that way, if you have a consciousness that sees what's wrong and what's missing, rather than the blessings and what's working well. So, and that is all in your control. So when I think about, reimagining the American dream, I'm speaking a lot on this yesterday. I just spoke yesterday at my church, and I spoke about this notion of, if there's something that you want to be in the world, this is a quote from Gandhi, just be the change that you want to see. If there's something you want to see in the world, make sure you're being that. And everything that you see in the world that you don't want, look inside yourself and say, what is it about me? What beliefs do I have that's giving rise, or that's allowing this into my space? So be the change that you want to see in the world. Reimagining the American dream means that you have the ability to live your life according to what you most value and desire. And it's your responsibility, spiritually, morally, ethically, psychologically. It is your responsibility to know what you value and to know what you desire. Because in my body of work, what you desire, what you most desire, is how God speaks to you. Not like I desire
Mm.
to have a piece of pizza and, watch the game, or not that. I desire to take a nap because it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Not those like passing, fleeting human desires, but those perpetual longings that call you higher. The reason that I closed my psychotherapy practice, a very successful practice. I'm fluent in American Sign Language. It was super easy for me to have a full practice because there's not a lot of people who can do that, so why did I leave that? Well, because there was a desire that God placed on my heart that was for something bigger, than something different than how I was currently expressing myself. So the outpicturing means that you have a spiritual, moral, ethical, philosophical, and psychological duty to know your values, to know what you most desire, and to do everything that you can to design your life to bring that into fruition.
Yeah. When you talk about really living consciously, what is your method to do that?
Sure.
I hear so much about, and I practice it myself. I'm very intentional with my morning. I kind of call it like bookends with God. I start my day. I try to have really almost like a living conversation with him throughout the day, and definitely am purposeful about ending my day. I always love to hear what others do in their conscious living.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I mean, certainly, Lisa, you are engaging in life in a very conscious way. When I talk about consciousness, I actually distinguish awareness, like being conscious, being aware, and consciousness. So to me, awareness is just your ability to accurately observe yourself. And
Mm,
I think that gentleman is back. I just want to be sure nothing pops up on the screen that's going to be
yeah, exactly.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So awareness is just your ability to accurately observe yourself, and to make adjustments according to how you want your life to be. That's awareness. Consciousness is the vibratory pattern of your inner world. So how you think and feel creates an outer energy around you called your consciousness. So this isn't philosophy, it's science. If we hook you up to an electromagnetogram to watch your brain energy, and we show you a bunch of images, some of them beautiful and inspiring and heartwarming, you will be able to see how your brain chemistry, how your brain energy, the electromagnetic charge of your brain. And if we show you
Yeah.
disturbing images, your brain, electromagnetic energy of your brain will change. What we know also from science is that the electromagnetic energy of your heart, which is your emotional center, is 5,000 times stronger than the electromagnetic energy of your thoughts. So aligning how you think and how you feel with what you want is a pretty magic formula for living life consciously. But I actually have a formula. I teach a course called the Curriculum for Conscious Living. And what I teach in that program is that our purpose in life is to grow in consciousness back to the divinity from which we came. So before we took physical form, we were one with God, and then we incarnated and we took physical form. And we're here to grow from this lower level of consciousness of stress, worry, anxiety, difficulty, challenge, oh, it's too hard, resignation, apathy, these lower levels of consciousness that are, even as I say them, right, you can feel it. It's like heavy and uncomfortable. So, and that is commonly the human condition. Neurologically, we have something called the negativity bias that's designed to keep us alive, but it basically means we walk around looking for what's wrong or where I might get rejected, where I might be embarrassed, where someone might judge me, because there's a survival connection to that. So we walk around in this human condition constantly looking for what's bad, wrong, or missing because of the negativity bias. And to overcome that, right? So we're here to grow in consciousness from this lower level of struggle, strife, difficulty, overwhelm, resignation, apathy, these lower heavy levels, to the higher levels of consciousness of peace, equanimity, love, oneness, and joy. Like that's why
Those
we're here.
words, yeah, those words that you just those string of words just that you just said just lifted me,
Yeah, it's something where you can
and
feel it just in
you
the
can
words
feel it.
themselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to ask you a question about this because I love where God is taking this because I am in the midst of a health journey right now. I um I was I went through some pretty significant thyroid and adrenal things, and I'm on the journey to wellness, and I'm doing this protocol right now. It's about hydration and cellular health. And what you said just around the words, have you heard? I'm going to share my screen with you.
Okay.
Have you heard of this study that they did about water molecules?
Yeah, of course, of course.
I'm
Ayamoto,
describing
Dr.
here?
Ayamoto.
Oh my gosh, this blew me away, Jackie.
Yep.
I want you to, friends, as you're looking, look at these water molecules. This is real. Now, this is real science, right, Jackie? This is not Lisa making up
Yeah.
this study, but
Some studies,
this
yeah.
visual, right? Of look at from left to right. Thank you, wisdom, truth, eternal, angel, I love you, peace. And then it starts to diminish the cellular nature, the cellular character. Um, and it astounds me how much we don't know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
our own selves.
Exactly. That's what when I talk about conscious living, that's the level at which I'm talking about. Like even there's a similar study where the water molecules were in the room with like heavy metal, hard rock, kind of what I would call low vibe music.
Yeah.
Harsh, and the molecules became very dysregulated and not coherent. And then they played like beautiful piano music, classical music, very soothing music, and the water molecules coalesced into a beautiful connection again. So
Isn't
it's,
that
it's
amazing?
everything that you expose yourself to, which I'm super mindful because I care about my consciousness and living consciously. I'm mindful about what I eat. I'm mindful about the people that I spend time with. I'm mindful about the activities that I engage with, the places that I go. I want to create a high vibration, high energy, high consciousness environment for me to thrive in. So it's not just what I
Yeah.
do individually, but then it's also how I, in my word, outpicture that into my relationships, my food, my habits, my hobbies.
I love that. And look at I'm not a prosperity gospel person, but prosperity is biblical. And the word is always and to me. It gets to be and. And look at what you're manifesting, you're outpicturing and the experiences that you've had. I want to hear, can you share with us about your trip to Dubai and how that was set up and why you were there and what you learned? Maybe I don't know if it's applicable to this topic, but I think it's a great example of you being the person you are and who you show up to be in your circles of influence and what opportunities are presented to you because of that.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I do want to really use this as a teaching element because I will answer that question, but let me use a different example, Lisa, about this, about how your vibe creates an outer reality. So I mentioned just kind of casually about hitting the curb, whatnot, about my car. And well, so I got a flat tire and it was a very cold New England day. It was just like a couple weeks ago. Super cold New England day, high winds. I was freezing. I was an hour from home. Nobody's around me. So, I'm on my app and the tow truck gets there and the Geico people on the app gave me a place of where to take the car locally and get my tire fixed. Oh, I drive a BMW and they don't put spare tires in the back of the car.
Of course not.
Of course not. Right. So, yeah. So I had to get on a flatbed. I had to get it towed. So I'm looking at where they're sending me. And I thought, oh, I better just call and make sure. And that. So I call the place. I tell him my situation. He's like, yeah, no problem. Bring it in. I got the tire. No worries, honey. I got you. I got it for you. I got your tire. I'm in New England. So I was like, great, great, great. So I tell the tow truck guy, we're just getting ready to go, and my phone rings. And it's the guy who I just talked to. He's like, hey, honey, I'm so sorry. I don't have it for you. I thought I had it in stock. I don't have it for you. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, okay. So I immediately chose my reaction. I can freak out and be like, well, what am I going to do? I'm an hour from home and it's freezing out here. Instead, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm kind of stuck here. I don't have any place to go. I live an hour from home. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, give me a minute. I got a buddy. Hold on. And I could hear him pick up the other phone, called his friend, tire shop right down the street from him. His friend had a tire that would fit my car, brought me to that guy's place. When I got there, so I was going out to dinner with my son. That's why I was an hour away. And it was my favorite Indian restaurant. And I really wanted to be there. I get there, I figure, oh gosh, how long am I going to be here in the tire place? And I'm sure he's busy. The tow truck pulls up. I walk in. He's like, oh, you're the lady that needs the tire. Let me get this car out of the bay. I'll take care of you. Immediately brought me into the bay. And then, of course, I'm thinking this BMW tire, high-end sports car. This is going to cost me a lot of money. And he comes, 20 minutes later, he comes out. You're all set to go. No problem. $70, please.
Love it.
So
Love it.
I have 1,000 stories like that. I have
Yeah, I
1,000
do too. I do too. And I
It's-
want, a couple things that struck me while you were sharing that story. Just imagine, friends, that if everything that ever happens in your life happens for you, not
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
That was a new concept that I learned when I first started tiptoeing into the world of entrepreneurship. And it's such a simple, subtle difference. And yet it's truly life-changing.
Yeah. 100%.
I have one of my affirmations is I never take offense and everything happens for me,
Yeah.
right? According to God's good plan. So share a little bit more about, can you share just quickly, this is for me, I want to hear about Dubai and how it
Sure.
was.
So just take that principle, right? About life responds to you at the energy with which you resonate with, how you conduct your life, how you think, how you treat people, how conscious you are. So I met a guy. Every good story starts with I met a guy, right? So I met a
Right.
guy last summer who was an event planner for the Paris Olympics. He was planning an event at the Olympics, and he invited me to go and speak at a wellness panel at the Olympics. So I went to Paris last summer, met this guy who was the event planner, and he happened to live really close to where my summer home is. He's from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and I'm from the Thousand Islands, upstate New York. It's 45 minutes to Ottawa. And so we really bonded. We really connected. I just love the guy. So the event goes, we spent a lot of time together over the event. And I go back to my summer home and I get a text from him. He's like, hey, Jackie, my friend is going to be in Ottawa. You have to meet him. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. Who's your friend? The Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al Nuaime from the United Arab Emirates. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, my friend. He's my brother. He's my sheikh. He's the royal family of Ajman. Like, I'm not gonna me a sheikh. What? Anyway, long story short, a week later, the sheikh says yes, he'd love to meet his friend. We go to a Turkish restaurant. We had a lovely time together. We kept in touch afterwards. And a few months later, he invited me to visit him in Ajman, which is right next to Dubai. It's the city next to Dubai. I flew into Dubai. So anyway, he invited me to visit him. And I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know how to relate to this. I didn't know like who does this. So sure enough, I went off to Dubai, and wow, what an extraordinary experience. I spent a week with the Sheikh and his family and the royal family at their guest apartment at a 33 level high rise overlooking the ocean. It was the sea, actually. It was absolutely beautiful. And so I spent a week doing things with the Sheikh, getting
I
to
love
meet
it.
him and going to events and doing tourist things. And I went to the desert and got buried in sand except for just my face. They do a resurrection from the sand, and this
Wow.
amazing. It was amazing. But what I was most struck by was living in spending a week in a Muslim country, and how incredibly different it is from living in the United States. 5 times a day, no matter where you are, starting at 5:25 in the morning, roughly, no matter where you are. I was on the 33rd floor of a high-rise apartment building, but from the streets, on the loudspeakers, I could hear the call to prayer. 5 times a day. You can be in an office building, you can be in a conference hall, you could be in a mall. No matter where you are, 5 times a day, you hear a call to prayer. And not everyone, the sheikh says, the good Muslims stop what they're doing, put down their prayer mat, get down on their knees and pray.
Love
And
that.
it was absolutely stunning. And I was able to join in with them for prayer a couple of times. And the sheikh, one of the things that he does, and I just think if everyone lived this way, if everyone lived
Oh my
one of the
gosh,
things that he
yes.
does is he plays a recitation of the Quran 24/7 in his house. So it's
I
constantly
love
in the
that.
background. He's just listening to his spiritual master, to his spiritual teaching 24/7 in his car. We're driving in the car. He has the Quran being recited in his car. And it
You
was
know
just
what? You know
beautiful
what just struck
experience.
me, and I want to ask you your thoughts about that. You and I have had some pretty specific conversations about faith and feeling in different environments we've been in, both of us having some church hurt and judgment by people that say they are faithful followers of of Christianity. And imagine, like, I picture a world where actually every one of us is free, which supposedly our country already allows us that freedom. And yet there's so much judgment here around belief and what you believe in. Imagine a world that we actually focused on the commonalities, because I can guarantee you there's very few Christian homes that actually have the Bible being vocalized, constantly day and night. But imagine just that focus, that actually knowingness of their faith also, which I find it very interesting as I've gone deeper in my faith. I've had kind of a redemptive reset the last couple of years. And I actually don't think Jesus would be too jazzed about the 35,000 denominations we have and all the judgment that supposedly Christian people are putting on others, right? I love your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I didn't know there were 35,000 denominations.
Yep.
I don't know if we're
Growing.
getting kind of way off topic here or not, but I'll
I
just go
know
with
we
it.
are.
But my thought on that is there's one God, and I'm going to let God sort it out as to
Bingo.
how God gets worshipped and celebrated. What I saw in the United Arab Emirates were God-loving people. Let me give you another example. I was driving with the sheikh. We were going to an event, and we were at a rotary. They have rotaries in Dubai, who knew? And this guy driving ahead of us pulled over, and a gentleman who was working, like doing landscaping on the rotary, he was clearly like a city worker or something like that. He walked over to the gentleman, and I saw him hand him something. Of course, coming from America, I'm thinking, well, they're doing some kind of a drug deal. What's going on over there? But I know that doesn't happen in the United Arab Emirates. Like it just, I mean, maybe it does, but there's just such laws around drugs and alcohol. So I said to the sheikh, what was that all about? What were they doing? He said, oh, well, we give charity. So that man driving around the rotary knows that that man doesn't make much money. So he gave him money. The sheikh, at least once a month, just takes tons and tons of meals and gives them out to people in public. So
That.
so my thought is, the more that my religion is oneness, that there's one God, there's one people, and there's many, many expressions, and I honor that for everyone. And I think that's a beautiful way to live. I have to, I have to manage myself around judgments of what I see in America today from people who
Yeah.
profess Christianity and live what seems to me a very, very different way. So, you know, I think there's lots of room for growth. And I'll bring this back to my teaching. To me, my commitment is to live as close to my divine nature as possible, what I call my Christ consciousness, to emanate and express Christ consciousness in all that I say and all that I do. That means to come from love, not fear, to come from acceptance rather than judgment. So that's always my walk. And I invite other people also into, you know, that kind of an expression where you're seeking something higher in all that you say and do.
And I love also how you also seek higher from the people you encounter too.
100%.
You know,
Yeah,
what if everyone we meet, we expect that they welcome us. We expect that they don't judge us. We expect that they want to give and receive as we want to give and receive, right? The human
hospitality that I
experience.
saw in the United Arab Emirates was unbelievable. People were so incredibly loving, so incredibly hospitable. Just there's such high degrees of hospitality and welcoming and warmth that it was absolutely stunning to me. And Lisa, just to end it, because I know you're curious about the story, I've already been invited back next January to not
I was
only
wondering.
visit the Sheikh in Dubai, but to go to Jordan with him. That he and I. And,
Oh, wow. And maybe bring your family. Do they have any desire to go at all?
You know, there's a lot of complications with that. First of all, as you well know, I'm married to a woman. So I did
Right.
have to tell the sheikh that before I went because I didn't, you know,
Right.
it's not accepted in Muslim religion. Gay and lesbian relationships are not accepted in the Muslim religion. So I told the sheikh that before I went, and he welcomed my spouse to join me. But the other
Yeah.
complication is that he has a heavy accent and my spouse is deaf. So we use sign language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
we use sign language. My spouse and I use sign language.
Okay.
She speaks fine. He would understand her. She would have difficulty understanding him. It would put me in the role of being the interpreter. And I didn't, at least for this first trip, I didn't really want that. So we'll see for January.
See how it pans out the next time. But
Yeah,
it
we'll
sounds
see how
like
it
you'll
comes
be
out.
back.
But I am going back. Yeah, I'll be going
Yeah.
back and going to Jordan next time.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and as we're wrapping up, Jackie, as we're already in Q2 of this year. What's coming up for you that others can, jump in on? Tell us about, I know you have a free gift that you have generously offered to our community. Tell us
Yeah,
about
I
that.
mean, so I would love to hear from any of your people. The free gift is a 5-day email correspondence course on how to elevate your money vibe. So you
Love
get a
it.
daily lesson from me on that topic. Um, yeah, what I have coming up, I'm producing a film right now called Your Money Vibe. And then right on the heels of that, I'll be releasing another film called The Frequency of Miracles.
Oh, I
So
love
those are a
that.
couple of films that I have coming up with Michael Beckwith, Joe Vitale, Dawson Church, Bruce Lipton, Sister Jenna. There's some really wonderful.
Wow, I
thought
didn't even
leaders.
know this part of your life. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm flying
Gosh,
to
I'm so
Miami
excited.
this weekend. I'm flying to Miami to do the final shoots for the Your Money Vibe. We've got it in production, and there's a few things that we didn't cover. So I'm doing a quick trip down to Miami to film for one day and get the
I'm
final.
picturing, is it kind of like a collaboration effort? Like I'm picturing like a secret kind of
Yeah,
version, but
exactly. It's a documentary.
okay. Okay. Oh, I love it. So exciting, Jackie.
Yeah,
What a wonderful opportunity to share just your genius, your beliefs with the world in a bigger way. Because let's face it, we love the media,
yeah. It's great to be here with you,
Oh,
Lisa.
thank you, my dear, for joining us. I so appreciate you. Blessings to you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Jackie, every time she comes on, she delivers in such a big way. So friends, we've given you some things to think about. One of the things that I love about entrepreneurship for myself personally is how much my world has stretched. How much my world and my vision of what's possible has stretched. I remember when I was in corporate, I had two financial advisors that I worked with, and they gave me the typical, financial advisor information. Well, Lisa, you make this much money, you and your husband collectively. When do you actually want to retire? Right? That's like the standard question you get from financial advisors. And I remember when I was in that world of corporate, I really didn't think there was any other way. The way that I look at life now, friends, by the way, the word retirement is nowhere in the Bible. So whatever phase of life you're in, I want you to just like release that word from your vocabulary, because friends, next chapters are always evolving. So whatever chapter you're in now, just remember you have so many chapters to unfold. Jackie's experience as a psychotherapist turned money vibe mindset, now film producer, astounding author is a great example of that. And what one person has done is that means anyone can do it. So those dreams in your hearts, friends, I just encourage you to keep pursuing. Donis, I don't know if you have the link for Jackie. I'll make sure and find it when we have our next guest speaker, and you will get the her free gift on the email if you're part of our email. So we're going to shift back to the topic of taxes. So friends, I want to invite you to consider right now, are you building wealth the same way that your parents built wealth? For example, myself, I was told, go to school, you get a good job, Lisa, you will step into a career, you're going to work there for 20, 30 years, right? At some point, you're going to be able to retire. This was the story that I was told over and over again in my mind when I was growing up. My parents, that was the model that they gave me, right? Now, I want to imagine, for example, if you were sitting down with your kiddos, how many of you have children, by the way? Raise of hands for those of you that have kids. Imagine if you were telling them a bedtime story, and this was the story you were telling them, right? You're going to grow up one day, you're going to go to school, get a good job, you're going to be there for quite a while. You may or may not like it. You may or may not like the people you work with. You may or may not be paid what you're worth or valued for, but you're going to stay there because that's what we do. How many stories, how many kids would be asking, hey, I want to hear that one again, right? And yet how many of us have bought in to the same story, right? If you're like a lot of Americans, and quite frankly, Canadians, English people, my husband is English, we have this same theme. And most people, if you go to work for someone else, you're handed whatever wealth building tool they give you. In most worlds today, it's still the 401k. So we're going to get a little tactical and practical. We're going to geek out a little bit with you when it comes to taxes right now, okay? Donis is laughing because she knows that actually is one of the things that lights me up the most, is talking about money. So friends, I want to show you, a different picture. So this is the typical picture that I see. I would say probably a good 80% of my clients that I sit down with, they ask themselves, do I have enough in my 401k to retire? And I mean, this is kind of a funny meme, but it's actually, unfortunately, kind of a sad state of affairs that our world is in right now. Most people would say, as long as I die, maybe not by the end of the month, but within the next 10 years, unfortunately, right? And the reality is, how many of you have been watching what the market's been doing the last couple of months, right? This is a picture. Take a screenshot of it. The reason I tell you to take a screenshot of it is because once you've seen this, you notice that the market is a history of, what do we know the market is a history of? Booms and, anyone want to put it in the chat? Booms and busts, right? We know that that's what the market is. And the reality is, most people have made a choice to get on that roller coaster without really considering that there's other rides that they can play on. right? If you were invested in the market in 2008, you lost, almost 58% of your assets. And by the way, these are people that thought they were diversified, okay? Now, you actually have probably seen the same roller coaster. We've been going in the longest running bull market in the history of our lifetime. So part of the protection first part of the Kingdom Wealth formula is actually taking action to protect what you have, because something is coming. The stock market history is repeatable. It's pattern based, right? So future happenings can reflect on what happened in the past. So just look at your own statements right now and see what has been happening in the last 3 months, right? And let's face it, most of us should have, theoretically, we should have 3 buckets that we're building wealth. One is the tax now bucket, one is the tax later bucket, and one is actually the tax never bucket. So I want to ask you, what are most people doing right now when it comes to building wealth? Most people are building wealth like the 99%. Very few people are building wealth like the 1%. And let's talk about that a little bit. The 1%, is very different. Yes, it's that little tiny red box up in the corner. The 990, the 99% are either unfortunately not doing anything, or if they are doing something, they have a 401k. They have whatever, the employer of choice has offered them. And even, by the way, I find interestingly, even when people move, they've taken that brave leap into entrepreneurship. They've actually left behind the corporate world. They actually are still bringing their outdated wealth building to their new entrepreneurial journey. What do I mean by that? Right? In the world of deferred compensation, deferred wealth building plans, you basically have some pretty strict requirements. You probably know this about your own accounts, but think about it. You are making a choice not to be able to touch your own money until you're 59 and a half. You've seen what has happened in the last couple of months. We absolutely can lose. And think about, this is one of the biggest things that I think people don't really realize what's happening. They haven't paid taxes on this money. I just spoke with a woman yesterday, one of my financial clients. She went to one of our workshops. It's called the Maximum Income Plan Workshop, How to Fortify Your 401k. She went to this workshop, and her number one concern was that she was 83, and she had over $1 million in her 401k. And every year, she said, Lisa, every year I have to pay higher and higher taxes. You want to know why that is, friends? It's because everything hasn't been taxed yet. All the wealth she had built has not been taxed yet. So imagine, is there a way off that tax train? So if you currently are one of those people that is saving the way everybody else is, the 99%, did you know that there's other ways? Did you know that you can still get a great rate of return? You can actually be on a ride that doesn't have the ups and downs, but just does a continually gradual coast up. And you can pay substantially lower taxes. Some types of accounts even eliminate tax altogether. So the question is, what are those accounts? Well, there's a lot of different things that you can invest in when it comes to building wealth tax-free. I'm going to share a couple of them with you today, but one of the main things that I want to share with you is the ability to work for yourself. The 2 biggest killers of wealth, my friends. The number 1 killer of wealth is our lifestyle, right? The type of life that we're living. How many of you have ever said, as soon as I get out of debt, I'll start saving? Raise of hands for those of you that have said that. I know I've said it a couple of times in the past, right? And what happens? We go get out in the world. Imagine there is a long line of people out your front door, okay? And picture the first person that's at your door knocking is either maybe your rent or your mortgage payment. The next person is your phone bill. Actually, I have some clients that say they would pay their phone bill before their rent bill these days. Then it might be a car payment or an electric bill or a gas bill, right? The very subtle difference that is a very fine line between the 1% and the 99%. You know who the 1% pay first? They pay themselves. Because unfortunately, what most people are doing is they have that long line of people out their front door. The very last person that they pay is themselves instead of paying themselves first. And what does that take? You know, you can either spend less or you can make more. Now, I personally have gone through phases of my life where I was spending far too much, far beyond my means. In fact, at one point in my life, I got myself in a bit of a pickle. I was over 70,000 in credit card debt. I was ashamed. I was demoralized. I thought to myself, what on earth have I done? Right. And I did actually make a choice. I realized at some point for 2 years, I was paying down this debt. Right. And then at some point I realized, man, it seems like I make a payment, but immediately what happens is the interest rate attacks the payment I've just made. And I feel like I'm treading water and going nowhere. Right. So there's programs that are available to people, friends. For those of my friends here that maybe the idea of building wealth seems so far-fetched because you do have this debt burden, this burden that's just weighing on your shoulders. I want to invite you, friends, to just know and believe that there is a different path for you. One of the things that I believe in is that every single one of us is a wealth builder, is a kingdom wealth creator. And I believe personally that the enemy uses debt as a tool against his good people, the good people of this earth. And I know it was burdening me. One of the things that I love most about what I do is not only helping people get very clear and have a path to building kingdom wealth, but I also give them ways to get off the roller coasters of ups and downs. I give them relief. One of the forms of relief that we find is actually the debt burden. There's programs out there, for example, if you or anyone you know, for example, are burdened by student loan debt, for example. I just met with a physician. He's an ER doc. He went through just like crazy COVID upheaval during those years. He's really burned out. And guess what? He came to me and he's like, Lisa, I don't know, even if I wanted to do something else, I am so burdened by this tax debt. In fact, at the time of this airing, now this actually I believe is now 1.9 trillion in student loans. After COVID, things really shifted because so many people stopped paying on their student loans. And I want to actually let you know that as of last month, Trump actually stopped any possibility of there being actual debt forgiveness. So if you are burdened by student loan debt, friends, I want to encourage you to reach out to us. If you know people that are burdened by student loan debt, reach out to us. Donis is going to put the link in the chat again. Sometimes we have to help someone actually relieve their debt burden before they can even fathom the idea of actually living beyond debt and building wealth, right? So there's ways. The good news is, friends, there's ways to relieve yourself of that burden. You might remember in 2008 when the crash occurred, you would see people literally like I was in the world of recruiting. I would have people calling me every single day. Lisa, I just got laid off. And I was working with people that were very well paid. My typical placement that I made, people were making 150 to 200 an hour. These were highly paid technology professionals and financial professionals. And they were coming to me and they were realizing they've lived beyond their means. Has anyone ever realized, looked at your income and looked back maybe like 5-10 years and realized how much less you were making, and yet you still made it? You were still able to pay your bills. Imagine if all of us make a choice to live within our means. It doesn't mean that we can't do wonderful things, but living within our means and being purposeful about investing for the future. Imagine generating more in your own life so you can be generous. That's one of my favorite tax write-offs, actually, is generosity and giving. In fact, we have a mission in our community here to create a tribe of 7-figure, not earners, but givers. Imagine if you are giving 7 figures, imagine what your earnings are, right? So I want to encourage you, if you are burdened by debt right now, take that first step, whether it's credit card debt, whether it's student loan debt. Right now, the baby boomer population is set to pass their children more than $68 trillion. We're in what's called the largest wealth transfer in the history of mankind. And the challenge that I see with that, while it's a wonderful opportunity, the challenge that I see with that is if we don't develop good money habits, that 68 trillion is going to be gone just like that. In fact, I actually have many clients that I've met with that their retirement plan is actually their inheritance. Imagine, do you want something different for your children? Then we get to change the behaviors that we have around money. Think about, for example, the last time, have you had opportunities that have been lost because of the fact that you haven't been more purposeful around your wealth building? I needed to pay off my debt first. We talked about that. We're tight on money. I wish I could start saving more. Friends, I want to banish those types of statements from your life. My desire is that every opportunity that you're presented with, you actually say yes if it resonates with your calling in life. How many times have you left money on the table, in a deal, or you've lost out on referral opportunities because you just didn't simply have the cash flow at the time, right? So I want to invest you. Have you considered how just the student loan debt or credit card debt burden alone is holding back our youth from so many things in life, getting married and buying a home or having a family? So, if you're in debt or people that are struggling with debt, you can help yourself and your community in the process. One of the things that I love about all of our affiliate relationships is that you can actually not only help yourself, you can put your own mask on first, but guess what? You can also use that tool to help others and be compensated for it. There's a limit to who I know, right? There's a limit to who you know, but there is no limit to who I don't know. And that's what I love to share about affiliate partnerships and how you can help yourself actually build wealth through those. I mentioned my amazing mentor, Sharon Lecter. This is Sharon. She actually co-wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad that some of you might be familiar with. She talks about in her recent book that by 2030, women are expected to control 30 trillion of the financial assets in the US. That's about 2/3 of the entire wealth of the nation. This is by inheriting, from our parents, since we are living so much longer. Do you feel prepared? My question to you is, do you feel prepared for this responsibility, right? Because it's a mighty one. So, if this is the first time that you've considered your role as an active participant in building wealth, I want to invite you to consider this is the first of many conversations you get to have with yourself, and first of many dialogues when it comes to how do I build my wealth in the future? What do I do differently, perhaps, that can make my future look different? How many of you are familiar with a concept called the cash flow quadrant? So we talked about lifestyle being the biggest killer of wealth, right? Let's now talk about the second biggest killer of wealth. Does anyone have an idea what it might be? Anyone? Anyone? Donis, do you know what it might be? Donis knows the answer, but she's in the mountains and she might have a hard time sharing. But the biggest killer of wealth, my friends, is taxes. So one of the things that I want to introduce you to, if this is new for you, one of the best ways to save on taxes is actually to start your own business and be on the right side of the cash flow quadrant. The cash flow quadrant, for those of you that aren't familiar, this is a concept that was first introduced in that famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it talks about, most of us are in that first quadrant. This is definitely where I spent decades of my life. I was an employee. I was trading my time for money. I shared with you earlier, I was in that tax bracket of doom, the W-2 tax bracket of doom, right? Now, I actually was a highly commissioned salesperson. My typical year would be maybe 400,000 a year, and I did that for decades. And I remember cringing every time I would look at my pay stub and see how much Uncle Sam was getting of my taxes. And yet I loved it also because I really didn't have a limit on my income. But what I didn't realize at that time is how limiting my W-2 status was to my wealth building. Now, some people, they get brave. They go out like a lot of us here. We've now stepped into the role of self-employed. But have you ever considered how most people, when they are working for themselves, they actually, in a lot of ways, own a job, right? They're wearing all the hats. They're doing the marketing, the sales, the tactical, practical fulfillment of whatever it is that they're marketing and selling. And they have often very little time freedom, right? Now, on the right side, this is a business that has actually implemented systems. This is a business that is unlimited. It is system driven. It actually continues when we stop. It does. This is one way to truly create passive income over time. Now, I said to you earlier, I really actually dislike the term passive income because of how overused it's become through the years. I think it's one of there's Jay. Hi, Jay. How are you, my friend? I think it's actually one of the hooks that get people to join webinars, join workshops, right? And yet I think it's a very actually the word passive in it's just the phrase itself. Think about it. It is actually very limiting, in my opinion. When you are active, when you are participating in your wealth building, that is when the magic happens. Now, I'm not saying that there's not asset classes that can produce more income without your two hands. But I want to let's just adopt some new language. Let's be a participant in our wealth building. Let's be active in our wealth building. At least at first, there's some asset classes that I have in my portfolio that truly do pay me while I'm sleeping, right? Because of systems that I've built up. But a lot of them are because of time and because of a lot of work that I've put in, ahead of time. So as you're navigating your world, friends, do you have there's three companies. There's this joke that I share. This guy goes into his HR office and he's like, 3 companies are after me, so I need a raise. And the HR gal is like, well, which 3? And he says, my electric bill, my gas bill, and my and my power bill, right? So friends, if you are in a position right now where companies are after you and you're just not quite making what you want to, friends, if you have a desire to give more generously, I want to invite you to think about what if today you made a conscious decision to step over that line and take an active participation in your wealth building instead of maybe this passive investing, passive activity in wealth building that we've accomplished in the past, many of us. I want to invite you, like, what would you do today if money was not an issue? Where would you go? Who would you spend time with? What experience do you want to bless your next generation with? This is my sweet girl. This is Sierra Grace. She's 17, and in January, I was very blessed to get to go on a mission trip with her. In the upper right-hand side, this is a slab of concrete. We went to Tijuana, just across the border here in San Diego. And I was astounded by just stepping across that line, that border line, how we literally went from one of the most wealthy places on the planet Earth, Southern California, to truly one of the most impoverished places on the earth, which is Mexico. In this case, it was Tijuana. And what was miraculous about this time, there were a couple of things that I want to share with you. One is that if you have a desire to give more generously, friends, this is the place you want to be, because that is we're all about that. To go on this mission trip, by the way, it cost about $1,500 for each Sierra and I, so a total of $3,000. Now there were opportunities for us to actually do some fundraising and do some ways that we could help ourselves, but of course I left it to the last minute. I didn't really get out there, and so here I was 10 days before the trip, and I'm like, oh shoot, I guess we'll just pay it, right? And I had the funds to do that. But do you know what happened? Literally, I was looking at the portal and there were about 15 families that also had 1,000 left. Some of them like 1,200, almost the bulk of their their contribution. And all of a sudden this woman comes in from our church with one fell swoop. She tops everyone off. She gives everyone the top up that they needed to go on this mission. That is the kind of generosity that I'm after, friends. That is one of the reasons that I am building wealth differently as an entrepreneur, as a kingdom wealth creator. And I invite you, whatever dream that God has planted in your heart when it comes to generosity, maybe you're already giving generously of your time and your energy, but imagine, I'm not going to say and imagine now you are also giving generously financially. I follow an amazing pastor, a gentleman named Ron Carpenter, out and in Northern California. He runs this massive church called Redemption Church, and he has a goal to be the richest church on the planet Earth. He has a goal that any calling, any mission that comes to his ministry, if it resonates with him and it's following the guidelines of what his church beliefs are, that he can say yes. He said he had this massive idea. He said, imagine being the church that when a tragedy like the LA fire happens, that's just devastated this part of our world. Imagine if he could go in and say, don't worry about fundraisers. We're going to cover the whole thing. Imagine that kind of wealth building for the kingdom. So wherever you're at in your wealth building journey, friends, I want to invite you to imagine how much more impact could be made as you learn to generate more so you can be generous. So great segue now for my friend Jay Moore to come to the stage. Jay, we've been having some fun today talking about kingdom wealth building, the kingdom wealth formula, which you're very familiar with. And Jay, it's funny. Jay and I are both, as many of you are, we're part of this amazing community called 100X. I don't know about you, Jay, but I accidentally kind of stumbled onto Pedro. I think I definitely was a victim of a Facebook ad a couple of years ago. For me, it's been about 2.5 years now. And I remember just this, I was listening, I think it was actually on Facebook or YouTube. And it was like, this guy's talking about kingdom finance, and finance is my world. It has been for many years. And I thought, who is this? Who is this guy? What is he about? And I remember the first workshop I attended was his Kingdom Finance Challenge. I don't know if you remember that one, Jay. And I was hearing things that I'd never heard before. I was hearing things not only about finances that I hadn't heard before, but I was actually hearing things about my faith that I thought I knew like the back of my hand. I remember thinking, I don't remember a time I didn't know Jesus, but I've never heard someone talk about Jesus this way. I've never heard someone talk about the kingdom like this, right? And I remember that very first conference, it just happened to be accidentally, I say on purpose, right in my backyard, like a couple weeks later. And I got to come to the event, the 100X event in Anaheim in October of 23. And my life has never been the same since. And Jay, I actually saw you speak there at that very first event. So welcome to the stage, my friend Jay Moore. He is helping people build kingdom wealth in his own realm of taxes and tax strategy. And I'm excited to learn from you today, my friend. But tell me about your first 100X experience, by the way. I want to rehear that for a minute.
Awesome, awesome. Lisa, I'm just super excited to be here. I remember when you told me about this, the first of the year, and here it is. We're already in April, and
How did that
it couldn't
happen?
it couldn't have come fast enough, right? And, because I've been thinking about this for the past few months. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for having me. And yes, my first experience, 100X, similar to yours, Lisa, not a little bit earlier. I came across Pedro in 2019. It was like June of 2019. I saw a Facebook ad. Wow, that's a tune ad, Facebook ad. Like this guy has been running ads for a long time. So he's run this ad, and I'd never heard anybody talk about the kingdom and finances ever. I was like, huh? I had just been introduced to the kingdom. So the word kingdom was right on my peer view. So I was like studying Dr. Miles Monroe, just kind of like spearheading, going towards the kingdom. And then I find a guy who's speaking that language in business, and he did his famous Kingdom Wealth Challenge, the 818 challenge. And I got into that. I had never heard any of this stuff before. None of it. This is all new. I'm in the realm of finance and tax, and I'm like, yo, this guy's different. And I just was like, you know what? I think this is the person that I need to learn from. And from that day forward, I just decided that in any capacity, whether I'm in a program, I'm just going to stay around people like this, because you can't help but to elevate when you're around people like that. And this whole room is a result of a person like Pedro Adele, who has impacted many of us indirectly. And I'm just thankful that he decided to do what he was called to do, which was help people, help
Big
people.
yes.
Yes,
Yep,
he gave the yes, man.
absolutely.
So I'm excited.
Big yes. And this series, by the way, is a total God series. 100% God downloaded this idea of reimagining the American dream. And you're a really great example of that, Jay. Your journey. Tell us a little bit about, thumbnail sketch about that journey when you kind of took that brave leap from corporate to entrepreneurship and the sort of circuitous path that you've taken.
Wow. It's been a while for me. So in 2001, I'm going to take you guys back all the way back. 2001, the dot-com boom is happening. I'm working in tech. So I got my CPA, but I was working for a technology company in their finance department. And, as tech companies do, they lay people off. And my number came up. I'd lasted a few rounds and my boss called me into the office. It was right around July of 2001. She says, "Hey, well, looks like we're going to have to let you go." And I was like, wow, okay, so you're going to let me go, but I was prepared. Everybody, look, at any time, if you have a job, be prepared to leave. You got to be prepared. I was prepared to leave.
Gotta
So
be
when
prepared.
when she told me, I already had another job. I had a job lined up. The day they let me go, I started on Monday, my new job. So I was prepared. Now, in one way, but not in all ways. But I'm prepared. I go to a new job, I work for 3 months. And something just, I got a knock. I got a knock at the door. It was just like, you know, you can do this, right? I'm like, do what? See, back then, I wasn't in tune with the Holy Spirit and talking about spiritual things, even though I was a Christian. Something not the Holy Spirit knocked on my door and says, "Hey, you can do this, right?" I'm like, "Do what?" You can go into business. Go into business. Are you serious? Listen, no one went into business in my family. I didn't have any friends going into business. As far as I was concerned, no one around me was doing anything in business. And here it is. It's like, go to business. I was like, what? How am I going to do that? I might have had about 6 months of severance savings in my pocket. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do that? Because guys, this is a question that we all ask. How? How can I do it? I didn't know how. But here's the thing. I said, you know what? Let me just weigh the odds. If God can give me a job that was paying me more than I'd ever been paid, then he can give me a business that'll pay me more than I can ever be paid.
Come
And
on.
no, seriously, that's how I weighed it out. And I just jumped out into la la land, I would call it, because really it's a roller coaster, guys. If you read Darren Hardy's book, Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, that's all it is. Just a series of ups and downs. And January of 2002, I started my first accounting and bookkeeping and accounting business. Started getting clients and things was just kind of rolling. Then me and my wife had just gotten married a couple of years. And then all of a sudden she was pregnant. So then it was like, oh my goodness, she's pregnant. She still had a good job. My business is like this. You know what I did? I started a new business. I started another business. I went into the mortgage business because I heard you can make a bunch of money in the mortgage business. So I had this kind of like accounting business, and I started a mortgage business, and I'm making money. I went into real estate, bought some houses. I was about to get into the flipping game. And then all of a sudden, 2006, 2007, 2008, the market crashed. Bam.
Yeah.
I made a lot of money too. So remember in the beginning, I know I was going to make any money. Then all of a sudden, I went all the way up to the mountain, made a bunch of money, and then I crashed. There's a scripture about crashing. It says the guy who builds his house on solid rock, right, will sustain. He will sustain the crash. But the guy who builds his house on sand, it will be a big crash. Guys, I was on sand, right? Because I didn't have the kingdom back then. So I did
Wow.
things like in this market that you're in, this market that you guys are in, Lisa, there's a lot of these gray, these things are in the gray area, little things that you kind of do that the industry does. Same in my business, the tax business, little things we do. And I crashed big time. That's when I heard the Holy Spirit say, well, now you're going to really have to learn it.
Mm.
Because I didn't know how I made all this money, even though I made a bunch of money. He said, now you're going to really have to learn. That was 2008. But anybody here, if you've ever had a crash, I can guarantee you didn't want to get up.
Mm.
From 2008, 9, 10, 11, I just was like, wasn't really doing anything. But it wasn't until Holy Spirit came back. Says, all right, I turned 40. And he says, all right, I think you're ready for something. Ready for what? I want to make a lot of money. Oh, yeah, you can make a lot of money. He says, but he says, you're ready for something else. I got something else for you. What is it? Don't worry about it. And from 2011, 12, that's when God subtly took over. He subtly took over my life. Subtly. It wasn't like beat me up. You better go do this. Just subtly allowed me to turn my life over to him. And then when I finally found the kingdom in 2019, it was almost like, oh, finally. Now, remember, I was in corporate America. I got laid off. Then I started business and I got another business, made a lot of money. I was not building my businesses the proper way, but it wasn't until the kingdom showed up. And then I started aligning myself. So 2019, when I got aligned with Pedro, and when I was on stage at that conference, Lisa, what I said was I couldn't tell people, hey, man, I did all the strategies and they worked. No, that wasn't what was happening. It was a proximity success. I had proximity success. Just being around success and being around the kingdom started to prosper me. So anybody here, well, Jay, the strategies haven't quite worked. I can tell you now, a lot of strategies haven't worked for me. But for some reason, I don't know, good things happened. Now, just a couple other side notes, and then I'm gonna turn it back to you, Lisa. Good things happen, but bad things happen too.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm gonna say the bad things because this is where people quit. Bad things happen too to good people. So when a bad thing comes, you just got to say, well, what is this for? God, okay. Both my parents died in February. Both. February 6th.
So sorry.
Yeah. I'm sharing this as a testimony to the kingdom of
Yeah.
God and what God does in your life. He prepares you for things that will make you stronger and help you to grow. My dad passed on February 6th. My mom passed on February 26th. I had a choice to make. The choice was, all right, this hurts. This is unimaginable. Because I did not think that I'd lose both my parents this year. I didn't think it, even though it happened. He says, I have something for you, but you need that to happen. For what I got planned for you, you need what they left. Here's what my parents left. I'm going to tell you what they left. They didn't leave me any money, but what they left me with was, I said this just a couple of days ago, they left me more rich and more wealthy than any money they could have left me. It turned me into a giant, if you will. It turned me into a giant. And if you see me in person, I'm not short. So imagine that. You're gonna say, Jay, you got taller? Yep, I sure did.
He is. He's a tall guy.
So imagine this, Lisa. Hey, Lisa, I'm taller than what I used to be. Because now what God has shown me in all of this is his purpose. See, because guys, it's not about the money. The money is good. Oh yeah, it's the purpose behind it. What is the purpose for you having $1 million business? What is the purpose for you to be able to travel around the world? What is the purpose of that? If it's not aligned with God's kingdom and the purpose for which he's created you, then it's nothing. So what he showed me is he says, he told me, I need you to take what your parents left, which I've already given you, and install that into your businesses, into your ministries, into your family, into your legacy, and so that can never die. No matter how much money
Never die.
it will never die. And so,
and Jay, just even like you weren't on when I shared this, but I'm going to share my vision, one of my whys. This is my mom, Sue, and I remember I lost her and then I lost my best friend in a 10-month span. And it was in 2019, 2019, and right before COVID hit in 2020. And your parents, that legacy that they left, like, do you remember a time you didn't know Jesus, the name of Jesus, or was it
No,
was it
because
instilled in you your whole
it was
life?
installed. It was installed
Yeah,
as an operating system from the time I was
yeah,
born. So yeah,
right. And so I'm curious, before your parents left, did they learn about the kingdom through you?
they learned about the kingdom through me.
Isn't
Yes,
and see how beautiful it is? Like
yes.
we kind of have this passing the baton in some ways, back and forth. Like the foundation they built was a solid rock. And then you kind of navigated. If you're like me, you probably navigated off that solid rock
Oh my gosh.
various ways, worldly ways, right? But then
Yeah,
that's what I feel like the kingdom has blessed me with, is actually truly this rock we stand. And this room's a great example of it. Because of this 100X movement, there's rooms like this all over the world right now. Similar, friends collaborating like this and being invited into one another's communities, right? And just like I tell my mom's story every workshop I do, your parents' story is now going to be part of what, you continue to share, right? Yeah.
absolutely, man. I mean, my mom, she had she had faith. Like she was the person that I saw faith in action in. Literally,
Yeah.
the things that she did with her faith, not with her biblical head knowledge, not with her quoting of scripture, but with what she did and she believed for. She always believed for something that happened, and it was stuff would happen. She'd be like, I just knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So what she installed was what, and I told my brothers this. That's like it's I was the closest to her to learn it the way that she was learning it. Because when I was a baby, I was it's like I was the closest with her. And so I went out into business because she taught me not to doubt. Just go. You
Mhm.
can do it. God will bless you, like if you believe it. So I'm just super excited, man. I'm super excited about what they left and kind of like what I'll do
I
from.
love it. So we're going to use this time. I know sometimes you come in and you probably have a presentation, but I
That's only if
actually
you wanted
know
something like that. Yeah, that's only if you want
I
something.
know what you do very well. So I'm going
Okay,
to ask you some very purposeful questions
great.
around
I love that.
tax strategy. Okay, first of all, tell our friends there is a very defined difference between taxes, getting your taxes done, CPA work, and tax strategy. So let's start there. How would you, simplest terms, define it?
This is perfect. So this is usually how we start. There's like everybody's familiar with taxes, right? Let me show of hands for those who are on camera. You're familiar with
Unfortunately, too
taxes,
familiar.
right?
I still feel like I'm paying way too much.
Show it like everybody knows what taxes is, right? Oh, I know what your tax is. And so everyone is accustomed to what we call tax preparation. Anybody know what that is? Tax preparation. What does that mean? So tax preparation means by April the 15th, every single year, I've got to file my tax return. So what is a tax return? A tax return is basically a reconciliation of whether or not you gave the government enough money for your taxes than what you should. So a lot of times people give too much and they get a refund, right? Just regular folk, because you'll see the commercials. Hey, get your best deduction or get the highest refund available to you. That's how they market it on TV. So tax preparation once a year, you show up, you call your person, you get with your person, and they prepare your taxes because that's compliance. What does compliance mean? Compliance means I must comply. I must do something that has been mandated that I do. So that's what everybody is doing. That's why so many people are afraid of the IRS, because you have to comply. You don't want to be out of compliance. So when you get
Isn't
your
it
taxes
funny
done,
how those three little letters put so much fear
yes,
into people's minds?
yes.
And let me ask you your opinion about this, because I had a huge aha moment when I saw you speaking for the Power to Get Wealth event.
Okay, you
And
were there.
Pedro was
Yeah.
talking about active versus passive. In my
Mm.
opinion, that method of filing, preparing, which I did for decades. I went to the same CPA for decades, right? Gave
Mhm.
me the same answers every time.
Yep.
Is actually quite passive.
It's actually passive, correct? Because every year it's like no one's trying to see if anything changed during the year. So tax preparation is just compliance and it's a passive approach.
Mhm.
However, then the other side of it is called tax strategy. So tax strategy is not passive, it's proactive. It means, well, yes, your tax return is due and we'll get that done next year. But what about January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December? You have 12 months where you can literally just kind of make sure you're doing the right thing every month. Make sure that, hey, what strategies should I be doing? What strategies can I do based on where I'm at? And your tax strategist can give you a plan for that upfront. So you get a plan upfront. These are the 5 strategies you're going to be working on right now. So you work on those strategies, you get them implemented. That's the key, guys. Implementation, right? You can know the strategies. We get clients all the time and they say, man, I knew I could do this. I just didn't know how to do it. And I would talk to my CPA and then they would just be like, oh, no, you want to stay under the radar. Oh, no, you don't want to mess with that one. I had one just recently. Someone says, well, because a lot of people ask me, should I set up a business? Should I have an LLC? And a person was just like, their mentor told them, don't set up an LLC until you're making at least $300,000. Do you know that was a $22,000 tax mistake? It cost her $22,000 to listen to a not even a CPA, just a total non-professional. 22,000. And it was nothing we could do about
Yeah.
it. Cost her 22,000. Okay. So tax strategy is proactive. I think you're hearing this. Now here's the thing. And on that Power to Get Wealth Summit, when I came on there, I went through strategies that W-2 earners can be proactive as well. See, it's not just
Yes.
now, they're different strategies. Though now the W-2 earner strategies are more money oriented, meaning where do you put your money, right? Where you put your money will save you money later and will save you time later. Now, business is where you put your money right now because we need the deduction right now. So it's a totally different paradigm for a W-2 earner and a business person, but both can benefit from working with somebody that's proactive.
So I love this direction we're heading, because this information, for example, I literally, Jay, I can't tell you how many conversations I would have with my CPA through the years. My husband and I were high earners, sometimes years we'd have 650, 700 in the household. W-2. We had, Jay, the only write-offs we had was our home. We invested in properties, but guess what? We made too much money, so we couldn't write off anything until we sold the properties. So why do you think, like, this is a great example, friends, of what rooms you're getting in? Because this is one of the first things I realized, and why I shifted to tax strategist is I was getting in these rooms, I was going to these workshops, and I was hearing these ideas that my CPA had never brought up to me, right? And while I was a W-2, I was hearing these. And I remember coming to him. Finally, I realized it was like 2 years in, and I realized I think I know more about his industry than he does. And I realized, like, friends, when you find yourself in a place where you know more than most people, you're in the wrong room. You're in the wrong room. You're in the wrong meeting, right? You're sitting down with the wrong professional, right? Because they there's a limit to how much that person has chosen to grow in their industry. So Jay, why is it that, wouldn't you say 99%, maybe that's high. You tell me, like 99, maybe 90% of tax preparers actually could do what you do, but they just choose not to. Like, why do you think that is?
You know, before I got into it, I was a tax preparer, right? So here's what I ran up against, because I can definitely speak from where I was. I started hearing stuff like tax planning. Probably, I started hearing about it years ago, maybe say 10 years ago. I'm hearing about tax planning. Like, what is that? What is tax planning? But I didn't know anybody doing it. I'm like, well, who's doing it? So the room, being in the right place, and all of that matters, because the CPE that we get is not on tax planning.
Right.
The CP, most CP, this, the continuing professional education stuff that we have to do on a yearly basis, they're not teaching you to do this. They're just teaching you, these are all the updates on taxes. These are all the new laws on taxes. That's what we're getting. So what happens is the rooms that most of the tax professionals are in, you know, lots of people in there, lots of folks that know their stuff. But for some reason, tax planning and really the understanding around it it's not normal, because it goes against the ideology that you should quote unquote push the envelope.
Yeah.
Because most CPAs, they'll say stay under the radar. Oh no, you don't want to be red flagged, right? Well, technically, this isn't a red flag. For you to take these deductions, this is what's already in the tax code. So
Right.
most of the CPAs, because I was one of them, I just got tired of people asking me, because people would ask, Jay, can I do any more? I'm like, there's got to be more. So then I had to go search. I started searching. When I found something, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, this is so good, but no one else is talking about it. So there's a lot of people. It's funny. My partner was just in a room last night. She was in a room last night with some professionals, and she was just there to network. But they had some like tax and accounting professionals on the stage answering questions. And she says, Jay, do you know there was no plan, no strategist up there? They didn't
They're
have, and
crazy.
the answers that they were giving on some of this stuff was just like nothing.
Right.
She says, this is crazy. I says, but you know what? Yeah. So it just means that it's still not that many people doing this. And I
Right.
would say maybe 10, maybe 15% now. But it's growing because all the information is out there. So
Yeah.
most of this information that you can hear, like you can go find all this stuff on YouTube. And the thing about the YouTube is that, and I get clients this way too. They says, I just didn't know what to do. I really wasn't
Right.
sure. So even though there's YouTube videos out there, they usually they'll give you the steps. You still got to go out and do it. And that's when most people need help. They still need to figure out what to do. So there's a lot of people not doing it. More than likely, whoever's doing your taxes, they're probably not a strategist for most of you guys.
They're probably not. And so I have to confess, when I was working with consultants, that was the people I was deploying, in my recruiting profession. We had this general theme that unless you make over 100K, an LLC is just fine. Don't necessarily invest in an S corp, for example. So I realized, like your earlier point, people that had no business giving advice, me, was actually giving advice to people about this idea, these entity creations, which is a huge part of tax strategy. That's one of the things I learned first, was just that separation of your personal and your corporate structure, and all the benefits that come with it. But is there, generally speaking, is there a general rule around that?
No, there's no general rules. So tax strategy is based on where we're going, right?
Mhm.
So because it's based on where we're going, then we make the plan based on that. So if someone comes to me and they just starting a business, well, what do you want your business to do this year? So we're going to start asking you questions like, because at the end of the day, you have to set a plan for yourself. That's what planning is. It's like, what's the plan? So it's not just about taxes. It's about your money. How much money would you like to make this year? So if you're looking to start a business, don't start the business thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I can do it. Well, what can I do? What's possible for me? Right? And you have to create a plan around it. You need a tax plan, you need a marketing plan, you need all the plans. So when we look forward and someone says, man, I'd really like to make 250 my first year, I'm not going to tell them they can't make 250. Because I think you can make $250,000 your first year in business. Why do I think that? Because I just know that that's possible when you have a plan to do it. If you don't have a plan, then it's not going to happen for sure. But if you have a plan, so 250 top line, then that's where we work in. Well, these are all the strategies. We're going to look at the entities. You're probably going to need, holding company. You need a regular, you can service business here, product business here. You need a real estate company. You need this one for your family. You need this one for management. So we may have like 5 or 6 entities. Hey, why do I need so many entities? Hey, this is all in the plan. Hey, we're trying to plan based on where this money is going to go. And then the key is implementation. Now, there's things you're going to be able to implement, and there's things you may not be able to implement up front, but your job is to work your plan. But if you don't have anybody in your corner checking in monthly basis, quarterly basis, then more than likely, that's why so many people get to the end of the year and they're like, my year didn't turn out the way I wanted to, because you probably had no check-in points. So tax planning and tax strategy is just like, it's the same as anything, business, money, finances. It's the plan forward. So we just map out the plan based on where you say you want to go, right? That's at the beginning. Now, if you come to us and you've already had a year, Jay, I didn't do as well as I wanted to do. Well, we're going to look at your past first. This is where we find so many things. Oh my goodness, we uncover millions of dollars. Like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe you did this. Like you would think lawyers. You would think lawyers would be smart. Not. Looking at
Right.
some lawyers just today. Looking at some lawyers, I'm like, y'all made how much money? You didn't do nothing. You made $1 million. You didn't do anything. I'm like, what? But we always look at the past first and tell you how bad you were. Just like if you go to the doctor's not going to just give you a plan forward. The doctor going to say, well, your knee is messed up. You got a bad hip. You got a bad this, a bad that. We're going to tell you how bad you look, just so we can build you back up to take you to where it is that you really want to go. Now you want to get to health. You want to get to healing. Okay, well, these are all the things you want to do this year to get healthy. And so in essence, when we look at the past, if it's bad, then, but if it's not bad, you just didn't make a bunch of money, then we know what your problem is, which, guys, it's everybody's problem. Everybody's looking to make more money. So it's not that that's not like, it's not something we don't all know. We all want to make more money. It's just the fact of knowing what you're going to do on a daily basis. So, tax planning is pretty much the same as all those things.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting as I look through the years, the last 3 years especially is when I really purposely really did what you mentioned. I was meeting with my tax strategist quarterly and we would talk about, what was happening in the business. And every year I feel like I'm becoming more aware of, it's kind of like you when you have a health crisis and you don't recognize how much little knowledge you have about your own body until you actually are going through it, and then all of a sudden you become a student of your body. In some ways that's how I feel that co-journey with someone like yourself does. I wonder for you, like when is the right time for someone to engage with someone like you? Like, is there a benchmark that maybe they should be at in their business before they can really take on, obviously as a W-2, I know there's a lot of things that they can just do there, but what about, employing your skills as a strategist?
Well, you can start at any point, depending on what your mindset is around your business. We
Yeah.
work with people that's just getting started. They're serious and they're serious about their business. And so the investment that they make it's not so big because they know that they're moving forward. Now, if you know that, hey, I'm not too sure where I want to go, then you can always kind of like have a conversation, a short one, just to kind of like find out, hey, this is the direction I want to go. I'm not too sure when I want to get started or how fast I'm going to move, because it's an investment. Like when you're talking about
Yeah.
saving,
Yeah.
For the average client, it's probably at least 20,000 we're going to save them, right?
Yeah.
So 20, so they're like, wow. So basically what they pay us is way less than what they save. So it makes sense for them, and so if you're not in a situation where we know we're saving you money up front, then sometimes it's just a matter of knowing that, hey, if you were to do a certain amount of, deductions and strategies, it could still affect your W-2 job. So
Right.
the way that it affects your W-2 job is, hey, I didn't really make any money, but I was able to deduct $50,000 or $20,000 of all these expenses that I was accumulating as I was moving into my business. Now think about it. If you deducted $20,000 against your W-2 job, that's going to reduce your W-2 job by $20,000, which more than likely that's probably going to save you at least $4,000 to $6,000, $7,000 in taxes.
Right. Right.
So tax strategy just kind of gives you a kind of like, what can I do? And then whether you're making money or not, it still can help.
All right. I mean, we're in the same industry, you and I, and you recently got your life and health license. Did you end up getting it yet?
No, I haven't gotten it yet. I haven't gotten it yet.
You haven't
So
yet,
I
but
haven't
we
gotten it
get
yet.
to, you and I get to connect when that happens, because
Absolutely.
tax code 7702 is how so many people are building wealth, because life insurance is tax-free
Life
wealth
insurance, yeah.
building, right?
No, life insurance is one of the best. I call it non-traditional because you don't hear it talked about as much,
Yeah.
because you hear 401ks and IRAs, stuff like that, when really life insurance is the best when it comes to that, because it's not subject to the volatile, with the stock market and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
if someone's looking for something stable, it should, most people should put a good amount of money in life insurance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jay, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're a little bit over. Do you need to get going?
No. I mean, if you have more questions, I
Okay,
can
because
just
I have a
keep
couple
rolling.
more questions if you're okay
Yeah,
with
okay.
it.
No, I'm
So,
good.
okay, so one of my favorite investment opportunities is cryptocurrency. Okay.
Mhm.
And I saw an article. I think one of the reasons that I got into crypto investing, unfortunately, was because my sweet father, when we lost my mom, he got caught in a scam. He was looking for friendship. He's lonely, and he got caught. By the time I realized what was going on, he had lost $300,000 in a crypto scam. And so, part of this great wealth transfer that our industry is part of, right? I recognize there, with whenever there's something that is new around wealth building, which cryptocurrency for most people is still sort of a new idea when it comes to building wealth, right? But I saw this particular group that I work with is called Swan, and they only deal with cryptocurrency. And I love to talk about how the average investor can build wealth in cryptocurrency. And there was an article that I would love for your opinion about, and just kind of put some frame around it, where it talked about the S&P losing, and yet admitted, there would have had a financial crisis if spending continued unchecked. No guarantees, new policies will prevent a recession. There's a lot up in the air right now, but their article was about, hey, just one way you can create some fiscal, I kind of think of it as investing differently for now, at least, to protect some of what you're building. For each Bitcoin that appreciates from 80,000, we actually know it's a little bit less right now, to 240, which is what it's projected to be at by the year 2030. You could owe up to 32,000 in taxes when you sell. So just talked about buying in your IRA and keeping those profits a little bit longer. So can you speak to that specifically, and how you advise people around, the investing in their deferred plans?
Oh man. Oh. Deferred plans. Deferred plans, the way that I see them now, they're problematic because you're what we call kicking the can down the road. You're kicking it down the
Pushing it down the
road.
road.
You just,
Yeah.
I'm not going to deal with that right now, when technically it's not better than actually, paying tax on the money that you have now. So with a deferred plan, the whole goal was for people to get a quote unquote reduction in tax, say the year that you put money in. Wherein we don't want taxes when we get old. Like, why would you want to get more taxes when you're old? And now all of a sudden you're like, I'm paying all these taxes. Like, I talked to some seniors and they're like, well, why am I paying so much in taxes now? Because everything that they're pulling, all the money they're getting, and they're getting more money than Social Security, they got more taxes than they thought they would. Like, why I got so much taxes? I was like, well, a lot of it, you kicked the can down the road. So now you got to pay taxes on all that stuff that you're actually reaping the rewards on now. So if you have deferred plans, and I was a proponent of them. Hold on a second. I was a proponent of deferred plans because traditional,
Yeah.
the traditional approach. I did some digging. As an IRS. I'm like, oh, where'd this come from? Like the 401k, they just came out of nowhere, guys. Remember this. There was no 401k. There was always a pension plan. Your company had a pension for you. Then all of a sudden, pensions have been replaced. If you didn't notice, most corporate companies don't have no pension. They just have a 401k. What does that mean? I have to self-fund. They want me to self-fund. So because they want you to self-fund, we'll give you a tax write-off on this. When this isn't actually good for you. This is good for the stock market, right? They just, every 2 weeks, the stock market is getting just a boatload, all these deposits coming in from all these employers to keep it propped up, keep it going. So if you're in a deferred plan, right? And if you're still in one and you have an employer, you can't do anything. You can't do anything until you leave. However, when you leave, make sure you move your money. Move your money, meet with a professional, meet with somebody like Lisa who can help you to maximize those funds so that you don't get caught later on. Basically, for lack of a better term, with your pants down. And like, oh my goodness,
I
can't
love
believe
that.
So,
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, what I learned, is that I didn't even realize, like, we would make too much money to do a Roth IRA
mhm.
because of the income restrictions. What are they this year? What's the
Is it 190 something?
110 married
Yeah.
couple? I forget exactly. But anyway, what you can do, which again, my CPA didn't tell me, but I learned it, is you can do like a backdoor convert. You can do an
Yeah,
annual
you can just
conversion
convert. Yeah.
from IRA to Roth. So
Mhm.
like, I find it interesting that, yes, I love that article in the sense that I love that it's forward thinking. You actually absolutely takes if you need the tax breaks, but if you have the option, like I have my Roth IRA there. So that's how I'm buying Bitcoin right now. And because I'm incorporated now, and because I pay myself a very small salary, I actually can benefit from it. Now, another thing I learned about that we started that I would love your opinion on is the solo K. For the solopreneur, again, if you are, Jay, tell me if I'm correct in this, if you are self-employed and you don't have employees, whether you are a W-2 or not, and maybe just have a side business or a real estate business or some sort of investment business, anything, you can actually create a solo K for yourself. And tell me, like, do I have that about right? Is there anything you would add to that? And talk about,
You can
like, there's
actually create
so many
one.
more benefits in a solo
Yeah.
K, which you also can have a Roth solo K.
Yeah, so with the 401k, you solo 401k definitely can't have any employees. It's just yours. And you can put it up to like $70,000 in it.
Yes.
This like in 2025. Like, so when you think about that, $70,000, if you are really trying to maximize and bring down what you're going to pay in taxes, and with this solo K, like you can direct where this money is going, then it's
That's
a
the
really
part
good,
I
it's
love.
yeah, you want to be able to direct where the money's going. So when you have
Yeah.
control over that 401k, it's just not sitting on the stock market, you can say exactly what you want to do with this money. Then you're looking at a situation where you could be zeroing out taxes, just putting yourself in a really good position when it comes to your money. Because guys, that's what this all is about, right? It's about money. How much money can I control? How much money am I not having to fork over to the IRS? That's what this is about.
I love that. And really what it does, friends, is it speaks to diversity, right? And it speaks to diversification in how we're building wealth, but it also speaks to our freedom of choice and our ability to be active in our wealth building. Because, like, as Jay just described, remember the 401k that we talked about earlier, you're just taking whatever the company offers you. You're limiting where you can put your money based on whatever allocations that they've provided in the plan, right, Jay? In these solo Ks, at the moment, one of the investments I love most is, Jay, when you think about people and when they have ideas about multiplication, how many times have you had a client say to you, "Oh yeah, I think I'm going to get into real estate"? Isn't that
All the
like
time.
probably the most number
Real,
one?
yeah, that's the first thing that people say. Well, what would you do if you wasn't doing it? Oh, I think I want to go into real estate. So
Isn't it
that's the
funny?
normal one. Yeah.
Okay, so think about real estate. Now, I don't know about where you live, but in California alone, there's 500,000 realtors. 500,000 realtors. Most of them, let's face it, probably it's kind of like a side gig, or what have you. But um, imagine, like the last I heard, I don't believe there's more than 1 million homes on the market right now in the entire US. So that's just California. You know what I mean?
Oh my
So
goodness.
isn't it crazy how, like, that's where people go? Like, that's the first thing they think. And yet, one of the things that I love about the solo K, for example, is you can choose. There's a group that we work with that does land trusts. So many people have the desire to invest in real estate, and yet they can never get to the point where they get that nest egg, that chunk. And yet these solo Ks enable you to really activate your 401k assets, your IRA assets, to use it however you choose. You know what I mean? And the market, let's say the market's returning 7, and these land trust deals are returning 15% over every year for 2 years. Like, all of a sudden you see where that duplication happens, right? And what's possible in the kingdom. I love that. So, oh my gosh, there's so much we could talk about, Jay. I swear, like I could just pick your brain for hours on end, but
you sound like you've definitely been getting a lot of education around this for sure.
it's amazing. Well, and you know, it's like Pedro talks about, the more we expand in our industry, the better we are equipped to serve our clients in their wealth building, because you are a disruptor in the tax world. I'm a disruptor in the financial services traditional, wealth building world. And I think that's one of the things that attract us to the energy of one another, don't you think?
Yeah, man. You know what?
Absolutely.
Not even just that. It was your smile and you had this brightness about you. So I mean, you can't be overlooked for sure.
Thank you. It's the Holy Spirit. I give all the credit and I receive that. Thank you very much.
For sure. For sure.
So Jay, I know you have you generously offered a free gift to our friends here. You want to tell them a little bit about that?
I think I offered, hey, if anyone wanted just kind of like a free session, 30
Discovery call,
minutes.
was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can for sure. Definitely more than happy to speak with you, talk to you about your situation. And there's no obligation. It's not like you got to sign up for anything if there's nothing to sign up to. But at least
Awesome.
you can have a
Okay.
conversation.
Can you put that link in the chat? And for our friends that are watching the recording, this will be included in your in the email that has the recording as well. And I also have prepared for you guys. There is I have a kind of a cheat sheet that I've accumulated through the years. It's 11 hacks that the Kingdom Entrepreneur, 11 tax hacks that the Kingdom Entrepreneur can take advantage of in 2025. So you'll be getting a copy of that as well. And it's all actually scripture based, because guess what? What Jay shares in his knowledge, what I share in my knowledge, we are both seeking the kingdom in our lives, and our businesses are kingdom businesses, right, Jay? And
sure.
Whatever faith lens you look at life through, I think most people, if they have, they're sitting out, looking out their front door and they have a Christian next to them, they feel a little bit safer,
Mhm.
in these days. So Jay,
Sure.
thank you, my friend, for joining us. I'm so happy
Thank
to
you for having
see
me.
you. And I'll see you real soon. I know we get to be in a lot of the same Zoom rooms. So thank you so much for blessing us with your time.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate
Appreciate
you.
you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, friends, we are getting close to the end of our time together, but I want to just share a couple of things that, before we wrap, just really some of the things that light me up the most. And that has to do, up until now, we've talked about tactical, practical strategies. We've had some wisdom from some new friends. And I want to move into the last few minutes together, really talking about how to build wealth differently through one of my favorite topics, which is affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing, some of you might be familiar with this, some of you may not, but through the years, the many years that I've sat down with my clients, kneecap to kneecap, going through their finances, my discovery was that most people, while they certainly loved and appreciated the plan that I had designed for them, unfortunately, a very, very big percentage of them, no matter how much they loved it, never made enough money to actually implement it, right? I have a couple of my partners online with us today. Donis and Linda, they have been sitting down kneecap to kneecap with families through our 100X community. And, Linda, Donis, I would just love to invite you girls to unmute yourselves for a second and just talk about this for a minute, because I think it's a really real problem in our society right now. And I would just love both of you just to give like your 30-second highlight of what you experienced the last several months. We just had, for those of you that aren't aware, we have a massive challenge that we do every January. It's called the Wisdom Challenge. And we had over 128,000 people join us online to study the book of Proverbs. And during this study, they actually were introduced to the Kingdom Wealth Formula, which we've been sharing with you, which is the genius of our mentor, Pedro Adeo. And, Donis and Linda and myself, we were frontline, right? Serving these people, helping them implement this formula. So ladies, if you don't mind, just take a few minutes to give your 2 cents about this topic. Donis might not be able to unmute herself, but let's see if she
I
does.
think I got it. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Well, and I apologize, ladies. I am not at home. I'm at a somewhere else. And so, Lisa, what I really, really love is helping people realize where they are and where they can go to. And it's like so many people are totally unaware that there are other options out there. And it is such a heartfelt for me, because I care about people, and to be able to walk them through a journey so that they go from, tax base, potentially losing their retirement bucket, to a completely safe environment where they can never lose. And it's just like, wow. So, I mean, that's what is a big part of it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna share for a minute what Donis is referring to, Linda, and then I want you to comment as well. But this is the volatility of the market right now. We saw this screen here. We saw like the ups and downs of the market. Isn't it interesting that the Bitcoin market is actually pretty similar? Isn't it funny that how similar those markets are? But one of the things that we teach about in our Kingdom Wealth Formula is that you actually have an option to get off the ride, right? You actually have an option to build wealth differently. Just make a decision not to lose anymore, right? To actually step onto a new roller coaster that just goes up, right? So Donis, like for you, when you've been able to help your clients with this realization, like what has it brought to their lives in terms of like how they're feeling?
Oh, just a sense of relief that they don't have to worry. And, we've got tools to show them, when you get to this point, this is how long your money's going to last. And is that long enough for you? And it's like, okay, what day are you going to die? Then we can plan for it, right? But we don't have that control. So when we help them see that putting their money in a different bucket. And actually, the 401k was never invented to be a retirement plan. And so it's just evolved. But at least this way, we truly can get them on a good path. And they, I mean, I'm working with one couple right now. They had like 20 policies, and so we're moving it around. We're getting them. We got their annuities established, and now we're taking money from like a Charles Schwab account, which is up and down and up and down, and moving it into that annuity account. And then this money we're taking anyway. So it's just this. Yes, it takes steps, but we're getting there, and we're consolidating and moving it all around so that they can, in their hearts, know that when they retire, they will have a bucket full of money and a legacy for their children.
Well, and up until now, your clients that you're working with right now, have most of them been doing it on their own? Like, have they had an advocate like you in their corner that,
Well, a lot of them have had financial advisors, but a financial advisor doesn't look at it through the lens that we do. A financial advisor, if they work for company X, they get paid on how much money's in that bucket, not whether it's the best investment for the client. Where we look at it, we get paid by the vendor. So it doesn't matter what bucket we put it in. And so we can take that money and put it into a safe bucket, and we'll still get paid on that. So it's a totally different perspective. And, and this is horrible to say, when you have people that kind of sort of are greed-based, that they don't want their salary to drop, they're not going to suggest that that client move the money out and over there, because then they lose their paycheck. So.
Yeah. And, one of the things I love about working with Donis is Donis did not come from this industry. She was a traveling entertainer with her husband for many years. COVID totally, basically, Donna's paycheck stopped, like literally
18
overnight.
months. Yes, 18 months of paycheck stopped.
Yeah.
And again, this is where we realized that, we needed to diversify, that we had all of our eggs in one basket. And so then my beautiful, wonderful mentor and friend, Lisa Williams, was a great influence on helping me see that, I could go down a path differently. And so it's just,
This woman knows more about the world of finance than most traditional advisors, by the way, friends. And you would not believe how old she is. She is old enough to be my mother. In fact, I met her shortly after my sweet mother passed. And I think it's also just a perfect example of the theme of this workshop, reimagining your American dream. Because Donis is on her way to meet you're on your way to hit your first six-figure year in your lifetime. Am I correct in saying that? Have you ever hit six figures in your lifetime?
No.
How
And
fabulous is that? You would not, she's over 70, friends, just saying, okay? And I just get so excited about that. And I get so excited about women taking control of wealth, making a decision, a decision to cross that line. And whatever for some of us, I know Donis has some generational curses that she is overcoming. She is changing the pattern in her lifeline, So I just applaud you, my friend. And Linda's a great example also, I think, of the power of community. Because how did we meet Linda? We met Linda through my mentor, Miss Sharon Lecter. Linda, right? That's the first time we met. And again, a great example of someone, Linda, you've been an entrepreneur for many years. But am I correct? When you really started purposely pursuing your role as a Kingdom Life agent, did you find what you feel like you've been called to do in some ways?
Oh, yes. And I apologize. I don't have much of a voice, so I'll be brief. But coming into this industry opened our eyes, as my eyes, especially, and my husband's, as to the mistakes that we made financially. And with his retirement and how that was handled, and trusting advisors, like you said, you trusted your advisor. Well, we shouldn't have stayed in that arena. We should have done more. We should have learned more. We should have been more knowledgeable about our finances. So that's why now it is so exciting to help other people so they don't end up experiencing what we did. They will have a head start, and they can put that protection in place. We had a humongous amount of money in a 401k, but number one, we didn't take into consideration what the government was going to require, what they were going to take, and then also just other mistakes along that line. So personal experience is really helping me in wanting to help other people. And it's so exciting when when now we get a lot of people who come to us and they need protection, they need our services. They don't exactly know what they need, but they need something. So we can help them define that. And then the other type of client I see is someone who feels like they're very comfortable with where they are. They put something into place 20 years ago. They don't have no intentions of ever changing that. And then when you ask to maybe review what they have in place, their eyes are opened. Their
Right.
eyes are open and they're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I had no idea that this term policy was going to be so expensive in 10 years. I had no idea that this was going to expire. I had no idea, whatever. And that to me is just so rewarding, because then you can start to them on a journey, a new journey, and one that's going to be better than what they had. So anyway,
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And Linda's a great example of her and her husband have worked hard. They've worked hard for what they've accomplished. They have a lovely daughter and son that they are leaving a legacy for. Did I get that right? Is it 2 or 3?
we have 2, but they're not going to have much of a financial legacy unless I.
Well, you stop that. Take those words back, because you've chosen the most
that's really
lucrative
true.
industry in the world.
Right, but not what we thought. Not what we thought.
Not
So
what you thought, maybe.
now we're rebuilding. And I'll tell you something. I had a birthday last week, and I'm older than Donis.
I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, you ladies are amazing.
So I could
You
also
ladies.
be your mother.
Well, and I think it also, this is a great example, friends, of what it looks like to get in different rooms and have true, what I call covenant friendships. Because these ladies, not only are they they're business partners with me, they are my friends. They are my covenant partners. And there's something incredibly special about seeking God's wisdom on the same path together. Right, ladies? So
Yeah,
thank you
that's
for
really
everything you do.
I know that God put me here at the age of 74.
74. I didn't know that, Linda.
That's when I started. Okay, so it's never too late. It's never too late to get started. And I keep saying, Lord, I'm so glad you put me here, but I wish I had known this several years ago. I think I would have really enjoyed it. I never had any intention of getting into the financial industry, but I love it. I thrive on it. And I don't feel like it's work at all, because I love people. I love helping people, and it's just exciting. It's just an exciting opportunity, and to do it for the Lord, to do it with people who love the Lord, and it is, I mean, what could be better?
What could be better? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, ladies, so much. I can't wait to see you soon. Linda, you're coming to visit us, aren't you,
I
for the May
am.
event? Yes.
April.
How exciting.
April
Oh,
event.
April. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I can't wait. We
I
have,
know.
not only do we have we have online sessions like this, friends, but we also have in-person events. And I invited Donis and Linda to speak, not only because they're so wise in what they share, but we're looking for the people looking for us. So this is a call to action for all of you. Whether you want to simply meet with someone on our team, we have other team members in our agency as well. Donis and Linda are 2 of our agents. There's agents from all different walks of life, different experiences, that come into our community. And so I want to just invite you, if this industry resonates with you in the slightest, this is an open invitation, to schedule time with me to talk about the industry, talk about, hey, what could somebody like me do in this industry, right? It also is an invitation for you as a consumer, if there is an area in your life that you are looking to expand. As we're wrapping up today, I want to make sure you take action on the offer before you. And that is that, friends, you are worth our time. You are worth having an advocate, a financial advocate on your side. How broken is the current financial system when people that don't have money feel like they are not worthy to work with someone like us? Friends, doesn't it make sense that when you're building your wealth, when you're starting, whether you're 25 or you're 75, like Linda, wherever you're starting, doesn't it make sense that you have an advocate? And I'm not talking about a radio personality that's giving you advice on a talk show. I'm talking about licensed professionals that are seeking the kingdom in their business. You know, we charge you a whopping, what do we charge them, ladies? A whopping zero, right? And yet we are paid fabulously because we are working in the highest paid industry in the world, and that's financial services. And especially for you women out there that may be thinking about something different in your lives. You know, if this industry resonates with you at all, I want to invite you to schedule time with us. Now, for those of you that, you know, they hear the word finance, their eyes just roll back in their head, right? But you just want to explore how you could build wealth differently. What are you doing to pursue your American dream? This session's also for you because what we're going to tackle in this session is actually talking about, well, first of all, where are you starting? Are you an employee working for someone else? Are you a business owner? Are you a aspiring business owner? Maybe you're an investor with a business that's running a system, but you simply want to get more income streams in place. We're going to help you reimagine your income streams through the lens of a kingdom purpose. Because I will tell you personally, friends, if you make a decision to partner with your higher power, whatever you call it, our world, it's Jesus. Things will change. Things will shift. I personally quadrupled my income last year. I'm on the way to 10x my income this year. We're on our way. We are building a $100 million agency this year. And we need other friends to do it with us because it is not a single-handed mission that we're about. If you want to explore how to be your own banker, that's one of my most favorite things that I teach about when it comes to life insurance. We also have a new service offering that we just started working with that I actually just started employing, which is be your own banker when it comes to your mortgage. I am taking my 30-year mortgage that I owe over 700, I think it's about 675 on right now. I'm taking it from 22 years being paid off to 6 years. 22 to 6. And friends, guess what? It's using the same money that I have today. Okay, imagine I'm going to be saving over $740,000 in mortgage payments, over $125,000 in interest payments. You know, this is just like one example of the many, many things that we do that is different than traditional financial services. If you want to map out your next steps, how to multiply what you earn and what you keep, right? What you keep, very importantly, this session is for you. So Dennis, if you can make sure, and I know you've been dropping it in the chat along the way, drop it one more time. And then before we wrap, we get to have our prize winners. For those of you that are still online, I'm proud of you. Way to have stamina and be persistent. As long as you have your full name in the chat, then Dennis has entered you in our drawing. Dennis, do you want to try to share screen or do you want to just announce the winner? Is it working? Okay, here we go. Let's see if it works. Sandy Duncan, I see you, my dear. Sharon. Okay, we're going to have to figure out who is Sharon. Is this the Sharon I know? Is this Sharon King? I don't know. She might be at work. Sharon, if it's you, then make sure you put, yes, it's Sharon King. Okay, Sharon is a lucky winner. I swear she wins like almost every time she's here. Okay, who's our next winner, Dennis? So we have Sharon is the first one. Congratulations, my dear. see who our next winner is. I love giving prizes, by the way. Next month, I'm actually exploring a new prize giving thing where I'm going to give away trips. I'm so excited about that. Okay, our next winner is Miss Mandy Noggle. Mandy, congratulations, my dear. I don't believe we've had the blessing to meet. Do me a favor, just in case we don't have your contact details, please put your phone number and email in the chat for us so we can get that gift card. By the way, the prize is a $25 Amazon gift card for our lucky winners. Okay. So Mandy, if you can hear us, please put your contact details in the chat. Okay, Donis, let's see who our number 3 winner is. Winner, chicken dinner. Miss Karen Perlas. Congratulations, my dear. Woohoo! I love winners. I love giving prizes. It's so fun. Okay, one more lucky winner. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Brittany or Norma or Sandy or Sherry? Who is it? Miss Norma Yanez. Congratulations, my dear. So Norma, please make sure you put your phone number or email in the chat so we can make sure and get you that gift card. Is that 4? Did we get 4? Sandy, we got Sharon, who did we get? Mandy, we got Norma. Who was the other one? Donis, did we do 4? I can't remember now. Thank you. Oh, Karen. Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, my dear, you can stop sharing. Well, friends, it has been my absolute blessing to meet with you. This last couple of hours, it went by really, really fast. And I'm going to wrap today with sharing a really quick story. Okay. There was a young man that was at a banquet. He was a very avid golfer. And he went to this banquet and he was going to be getting a prize. He was going to be going up in front of a lot of people and he was going to be getting a prize. And he was a little nervous about it. And about 20 minutes before his name was to be called, he was eating his meal and he squirted ketchup on his plate and it went all over his white shirt. All over his white shirt. Okay. Freaking out, he runs to the bathroom. And he's like takes his shirt off. He's trying to, get the ketchup out of the shirt. And all of a sudden, his father walks in. He does not have his shirt on, and he hands his son his shirt, right? Friends, I want you to imagine this is the gift that we've all been given. This is the gift. I want you to have a visual. This young man, he took his father's shirt. He went out to that banquet and he represented his family, right? In this bright, crisp white shirt. His father put on the old one and he really didn't care. But guess what? That is what your father has given you. And I want to invite all of you, whether you believe in the Son, in the Son of God, whether you believe in a higher power, friends, there was a price that Jesus paid on the cross for us. He's already paid it. He's paid it all. I want you to picture that ketchup stain as the blood of Jesus. The blood of Jesus has been given for you. You are worthy. You are precious. You are his masterpiece. He loves you and he means for your life to be one of abundance and prosperity. It doesn't mean bad things are not going to happen. I love what Jay said. Bad things happen to all people, not just good people. And it's because we live in a world, friends, that is not our world, because there is a better world waiting for us. So I just want to invite you, friends, to remember this message. Take action. You are worthy. You deserve our time. We want to serve you. And blessings to you all in this amazing life journey. Make sure you join us next month. Our next workshop is going to be on May 13th. We're going to have another fabulous round of guests, And we're going to continue to show you ways that you can create your own kingdom wealth in your life. So blessings, everyone. We'll see you soon.